What?
It is, yeah. I don't know, on the floor somewhere.
Baby.
Calm down. I didn't hide it. Okay. Shut up. All right, here we go. Okay, should be live. Here we go. Apologies for the delay there. I had to take a piss. Then I realised I didn't have my iron brew, so I had to go and get that. And then I lost something. Well, I didn't lose something, you know what I mean? As always, if somebody could let me know if the audio is working. Microphone is once again doing the orange ring of death. In fact, I'm going to have a look in my audio settings because it's down to 68. It should be up to like 79. All right, that should be better. All right, that's it up to its usual volume. It should be fine now. Again, anybody can let me know. Yeah, how's it going, man? Yeah. Yay, boxing. Yeah, I know. It's all anybody gives a shit about, innit? Norman versus Haney. Well, I talked about that on my, not my last live, the previous live. I said that I think Norman beats the piss out of Haney and possibly even stops him. I think that's a mismatch. Haney has no power. He's a bum, glass chin. He's weak. He's an industry plant, child actor. Norman, for all his faults, I'm not saying that Norman's like anything special or anything like that. He's not that good, but he'll beat Haney if the fight's real. If it's not real, he probably just tippy taps his way to a boring ass decision loss. If it's real, I see Norman just kind of walking through Haney, kind of like Ryan did, except Ryan didn't have the stamina or the heart, the motivation to like really push for the stoppage. Norman should have that. He seems like a guy who lives the life to me and should be able to get it. You know, you could actually argue that he doesn't, but then again, you could say the same thing about Haney, couldn't you? You could say the same thing about Tank Davis. You could say the same thing about Canelo. Do any of those guys actually count as boxing, or are they just actors? Are they just actors? I mean, I'll let you decide. Is that you as a hoodlum? It certainly is, yeah. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that photo was taken November 2010. And it was a friend of mine's birthday party. I believe it was like his 17th or something, if I recall. No. Saying that, it wasn't. It was 2009, so it would have been a 16th. Yeah. Because I was November 2010. I was already in Scotland by that point. So no, that would have been November 2009. So I'd have been about 15 then, and it was a 16th birthday party. So yeah. That's another one I found, like, lurking about somewhere, you know. Yeah, God bless you, man. How you doing? Yeah, I'm going for no. Is that fight coming up this weekend? Because that seems to be the one everybody's mentioning. Is that this weekend? Because again, if it is, I see Norman beating the piss out of Devin Haney and possibly stopping him. That's exactly what Jose Ramirez would have done if that fight wasn't a predetermined outcome, you know. He is. Like, no. Do you know what? Like, I know it sounds like a kind of a shit post saying that, but it's actually 100% true. Jake Paul is literally the biggest name in combat sport right now, and you can say that unironically because he genuinely is, and it's not. Again, it's not through merit. And I know Del Boy was talking about this several years ago. Jake Paul is pretty much I know I did allude to this in my recent community post. He is a symptom. Okay, he's not the cause. He's not the problem. He's a symptom of the problem of generations of boxing fans being ignorant normies. It's led to a situation where you have a Disney kid, a child actor who has a lot of money and a lot of backing, being able to basically buy a boxing career. And this is nothing new. It's happened throughout the history of the sport. Okay, the exact same thing happened with, like some extreme examples would be someone like Jorge Kawagi, right? Jorge Kawagi was a guy who literally bought a boxing career. All right, and you had the exact same situation that that happened with Joe Fournier. These are just extreme examples. I'm talking about guys who couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag, yet because they were like wealthy businessmen or industry plants and whatnot, family connections and stuff, they were able to use that money and influence to actually buy like an undefeated boxing career. Some of these guys were even able to win titles. I mean, Jake Paul is literally just a more successful version of that. Okay, and he's not the first. He's not even the most successful version. Okay, like again, what do you think Canelo is? What do you think Canelo is? Again, a multiple-time undisputed champion, and he's been able to do so purely without even being able to box. Really, um, Kovalev or still Kovalev. Like, don't get me wrong, Beterbiev could get close to Kovalev and he could maul him and he could like beat the piss out of him and stop him. But Kovalev, if he could keep it at long range with that pendulum style, as well as that like sort of really, really unpredictable lead hand control and jab, he could walk Beterbiev onto some shots and he could knock him out from long range. He definitely could. Kovalev was definitely more effective from range, and he was just more like explosive and dynamic in his prime. When he used to live the life, and that. These are the boring ass conversations that I haven't missed. By the way, Paul is an enormous name. It would be shocking if he landed Lucas. Well, no. Look, let's not beat around the bush here. Let's not take the mick. Okay, if that's a real fight, it doesn't last 90 seconds. I'm not even it doesn't last 90 seconds, okay? If Anthony Joshua goes in there, even without a training camp, like he doesn't even need to train to fight Jake Paul. He could go in there straight off the couch after like a weekend bender. And if he were to just walk forward and just throw punches, that fight doesn't last 90 seconds. He would knock Jake Paul out in 90 seconds. Like it wouldn't if it lasts any more than 90 seconds, if it lasts a second longer, it is literally an exhibition. Okay. It's exactly what Tyson Fury versus Ngannou was. Now you can tell the difference between a real fight and an exhibition, right? You had Tyson Fury when he took on Ngannou. That was an exhibition. Okay, that was one guy who can box facing a guy who can't box, and the guy who can box not trying and just playing with him, right? When Anthony Joshua got into the ring with Ngannou, he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, and he didn't come for an exhibition. That was a real fight, and you saw what happened. Now, are you guys going to tell me that Jake Paul is in any way more durable or more athletic or a more capable, just more capable of defending himself than someone like Francis Ngannou, a guy who at very least had a martial arts background and a legitimate MMA career? That I'm telling you guys, that fight doesn't last 90 seconds if it's real. If it lasts a second longer, it's fixed. Okay, and anyone that says otherwise, I'm blocking them instantly because I have absolutely no time for normies. All right. If you guys want me to talk boxing, we've got to talk boxing. We can't talk boxing and adhere to the standard. We can't talk boxing and conform to the status quo while doing it to keep it in the state that it's in, right? If you guys want me to cover boxing and you want to talk about it, we've got to be open and honest about it, and let's call out manufactured fraudulence when we see it. Okay, let's do that. Audio's fine. Got it, mate. Cheers. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, the fight of the century is coming up. Haney versus Norman. I'm kidding. No, you know what I'm talking about. If Tyan Booth doubted whether he could put Joshua away with a cheap shot, I doubt Paul with a lucky punch. Well, again, Tyan Booth, for all his faults, was a legitimate professional journeyman, right? Like Tyan Booth would knock Jake Paul out if those two had a fight. I mean, if it was Tank Davis, who's off his size, then maybe. Or if it was like someone like Sonny Edwards, maybe Jake Paul would have a chance of winning, legitimately, without the fight being fixed. But a heavyweight, and not only that, a recent world ranked heavyweight. If I see anybody even insinuating the fight is real, I'm gonna be cutting all ties with them. I'm not having it. I'm just not having it. I've got no time for stupidity. I've got no time for retardation. I just cut that stuff out of my life entirely as soon as I come across it. And unfortunately, boxing is a sport that is absolutely filled to the brim with retardation and stupidity. The investigation came back inconclusive, and it sounds like they have refused to look into parts of it. Have requested data from Facebook. I'll explain a bit more. Yeah, I look forward to hearing how that whole thing unfolds. I remember you talking about it before. Look forward to hearing it, mate. Yeah, God bless you, Sven. How you doing, man? Yeah, the legend Tyan Booth. Again, at least Tyan Booth was a legitimate pro. He wasn't a good pro, but he was a pro nonetheless. He had a semi-winning record at one point, didn't he? I don't even pay attention to boxing anymore. It's just fixed fights and mismatches. Yep, of course it is. I mean, why would you pay attention to it? It's not that important. It's just a sport. But again, it's all anybody who's latched onto my channel gives a shit about, unfortunately. So yeah, it's obligatory, isn't it? But yeah, it is just fixed fights and mismatches. That's because again, it's the maximum amount of profit for the minimum risk. That's how they do things, Well done to Scotland beating Denmark and qualifying for the World Cup. Yeah, do you know, on that subject, I that particular night, I was working in a bar. It was a bar in the city centre, and it was filled with Denmark fans, because basically the Denmark firm that came over were staying in a hotel right across or just up the road from it, and they actually booked out this massive bar, and right after the game they just swarmed the place, and yeah, it was quite fun. They were actually really, really nice, by the way. See if you've ever met Danish football fans. They're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Absolute sound guys, all of them. I didn't meet a single one of them that was an asshole. I didn't meet a single one of them that wasn't nice, and they were very congratulatory, and even though they lost the game, you got the sense they were just happy to be there. Like they were enjoying their trip to Scotland, and they were talking about how much they love Scotland, how much they love the people, they love the culture. A lot of them were sightseeing and all that. They were just really, really nice people. And I actually talked boxing with a couple of them too, because I brought up Mikhail Kessler, and and they appreciated that. They were like, "Oh yeah, he was the hero of the country and all that." That was quite interesting. So yeah, had a few. I was basically just chatting to them all night. There was a lot of them, and they were all absolutely sound. Didn't have any, and I didn't even want to kick them out. At the end of the shift, because there was still quite a few of them in the building, and it was the place it was supposed to have shut 20 minutes ago. I was supposed to be kicking them out, but I was too busy talking to them because they were too nice. They were too nice to kick out, which isn't like me. Ordinarily, if a place is shutting, I will kick anybody out. I don't care who they are. I'll just grab them by the scruff of the neck and put them through the door. But the Danes were too nice. They're actually really, really friendly. And again, they were really, really respectful to my culture and my people. And they were just they were coming up to us, shaking our hands, congratulating us, saying it's great for Scotland, that, that you guys have qualified for the first time in like 20 odd years. I don't even care about football, but it was like a situation where, because they were such good sports about it, I found that really, really heartwarming, if truth be told. They were good guests, good ambassadors for their country. You know, Norman will beat the hell out of Haney in a real fight. It could realistically end in 1 to 3 rounds. Haney fans are well. Haney has absolutely no power by world level standards. Not even by domestic standards. The guy cannot punch. He has no power whatsoever. So all you got to do is just walk forward and throw punches, just like Ryan did in that fight, and he smacked him all over the ring. Again, it's just that Ryan barely trained, and he didn't have the power. Well, not the power. He didn't have the explosivity and the timing, the stamina, or the heart to get him out of there. He should have got him out of there in like 3 rounds. It would have been easy. You look like East 17 in that fight. Yeah. What is that? Some sort of gang? I don't know. I don't even know what that is. Yeah, how's it going, JD? Good to see you, man. Oh yeah, the fight's Saturday. Yeah, I didn't even realize it was coming up that soon. Oh yeah. I mean, I probably won't watch it. I'll be honest. Not unless like Devin Haney gets like sparked in the first round, then I'll probably watch it or something. But you never know. Got really no interest in it. Oh yeah, Benavidez going to beat the shit out of Yard. That's a mismatch. I mean, it will be a good fight in the sense that it'll be entertaining, because it's always entertaining when you get a guy like Yard who got a great chin, who can punch, but not very good technically. He'll get beaten up in that fight though. Benavidez will probably win every round. I'm going with Benavidez on points, or potentially a late stoppage. But I don't think Yard will win like a single round. I think Benavidez wins easily. I'd rather listen to Ben Shapiro complain about anti-Semitism than watch Haney fight. Yeah. Well, at least watching Haney fight will put you to sleep. Like with Ben Shapiro talking about anti-Semitism, you probably need earplugs to deal with that. Goldstein. I don't know. Like Ben Shapiro is literally like, he acts out all the worst stereotypes of Jewish people, doesn't he? He's just a stereotypical, like, nasally voiced, money grabbing Jew, isn't he? That's just what he is, He's the kind of guy who would complain about people celebrating Christmas and playing Christmas songs, Haney Norman is part of the Benavidez Yard card. It also has Martinez, Bam Rodriguez, Mason versus Sam. Oh, is it the card that's taking place in Saudi Arabia? I think I heard Del Boy talk about that. That Sam Noak fight is probably a fix. Sam Noakes will probably just take a dive. Bam Rodriguez, he'll win that easily. That's a set-up fight, mismatch. Benavidez will beat the absolute crap out of Yard. That's an easy fight to pick, in my opinion. Haney versus Norman, it depends whether it's real or not. If it's real, Norman batters Haney and stops him, probably. If not, you know the deal. Haney on points, I guess. If it's a rigged sparring session, like it normally is with Haney, I wish Bivol Beterbiev were fighting for the 3rd time on Saturday. Yeah, they probably should be. I've absolutely no idea what's going on with Bivol. You're asking the wrong guy. I've not looked at boxing like news in don't know how long. By the way, I started eating lamb again. Realized it was my favorite meat. Oh, lamb is beautiful. Yeah, been a while since I last had lamb. I need to get some, like a big leg of lamb. That'll be lovely. It's nice and fatty, isn't it? I like it. With Thunderdome gone, somebody needs to do these multi-hour streams. Praise Jesus. Yeah, I don't know what happened with Thunderdome. Or is he in jail or something? I don't know. Like, Thunderdome seems to do that. He disappears for like half a year, comes back, makes like 10 streams, and then disappears again. That's just what he does, I don't know what's going on with him. Ryan Garcia fighting Bum Mario back. Didn't they already fight? Oh no, that was Rolly Romero, that other bum, wasn't it? Speaking of fixed fights, yeah. Who knows? You never know with Ryan Garcia. He's like schizo, isn't he? So you never know whether he's going to come to win or not. Was that Mexican senator with the fake giant Gonzalez muscles? Yeah, that was Kawagi. He was absolutely brilliant, like the boxing equivalent of an Ed Wood movie, yeah. But again, the reason I mentioned Kawagi is because he is a perfect living example of just how fake these people are when they talk about boxing always being real. And you mentioned fixed fights, and you mentioned money laundering and things like that, and you mentioned those things in regards to boxing. These people will always say you're a conspiracy theorist, you're just complaining because your favorite fighters lose, and all that bollocks. But then you bring up Kawagi, and all of a sudden these people go quiet. He's kind of like your trump card, isn't he? You bring him up, and people are like, "No, hang on a second, you might be onto something," and they don't. It kind of scares them a little bit. They don't really want to talk about it because the thing with Kawagi, now there's been a lot of situations like Kawagi throughout history in boxing. There've been numerous situations where you've got a guy who's got political connections, a guy who's got like money backing him, and things like that, and then basically they're able to use that money and influence, and the establishment has plans for them, and they get them a winning record, and then they like sell them out like last minute. They build these guys up as basically industry plants and frauds, and then they use them for a specific agenda. Like a good example would be Peter McNeely, right? That guy was complete garbage, could barely even fight, and they managed to, like Don King and the boxing establishment managed to spend a few years building him up, getting him like a string of wins, mostly by knockout, against just either divers or just flat out bums, who you wonder how some of these guys even get a boxing record. They built this guy up to be a credible opponent for Mike Tyson, and then the fight didn't last 90 seconds. The guy just got completely blown out immediately because he wasn't on that level. That's a situation of manufactured records, right? Manufactured outcome in boxing. Jorge Kawagi he just stands as an obvious example of it, because one of the things with Kawagi was the guy was kind of disabled. And what I mean by that is he didn't have any like natural muscle mass. He didn't have any natural explosivity. Even if you look at him in his prime when he was in shape, he was trying to throw punches and he couldn't. His punches were in slow motion, even in his prime. If you look at the fight that he had, it was one of the few fights of his that ended up on the internet. It was a fight against a really good journeyman called Roberto Coelho. Roberto Coelho was a very, very tough guy, very awkward, a lot of power. Wasn't a very good fighter because he was a guy who would take fights on short notice. Wasn't in great shape most of the time, but he was one of these guys who you get the sense if he were to dedicate himself to the sport, he would have been very good. He was able to give guys like Thomas Adamek a lot of problems. He was a very, very tough, durable journeyman and a dangerous guy. And if you look at when he fought Kawagi, he goes out there and the fight's on the internet, so you can go and watch this. Kawagi is throwing punches literally in slow motion, and this is Kawagi at his absolute prime. The guy he might have had some sort of genetic defect where he just couldn't like extend his arms quickly enough to throw a punch with power or speed, right? So he's missing everything. Coelho is looking at him, and it's like Coelho was surprised by how bad Kawagi was and how easy he was to hit. So Coelho, after like dominating the first round with ease, sits on his stool, and it's kind of communicated to him from his corner what he's being paid for. And he goes out in the second round and just stands there and lets Kawagi land a couple of like it was like being touched on the chin with a sponge. There was like no power on the punches whatsoever. And then he just goes down. And the fix was so obvious that the Mexican crowd started throwing bottles in the ring and shouting "fix, fix!" Like it was so obvious you couldn't deny it. It was that obvious. And Kawagi was like, I think the Mexican boxing media, who were in support of Kawagi prior to that point, basically urged the guy to retire. They urged him not to fight because he was like destroying the credibility of the sport because of how obvious his fixed fights were. That's just an extreme example, right? There are plenty of guys out there who look the part, right? Again, Canelo, bodybuilder, right? Looks great, got good genetics, pretty strong, pretty durable, right? Can throw a punch, can snap his arms and extend them quickly enough to look like he's throwing a legitimate punch. And they're able to manufacture his fights to look real, to the average person. So the average person, you'd watch a Canelo fight, and it looks very realistic, doesn't it? That's a situation where you have what they tried to do with Kawagi, and let's not forget the WBC was involved with Kawagi. They actually gave Kawagi a regional title. He won a regional WBC title despite not even being able to throw a single punch with power or speed. How was he able to do that? Because every single one of that guy's fights was 100% fixed, literally his entire career. Now, it's a similar situation with Canelo, but the problem is, like I say, a guy like Canelo, he doesn't have those same genetic defects, so they're able to disguise it a lot better, That's kind of how it works. But you try explaining this to people, and they call you a conspiracy theorist and this, that, and the other. But that's why, and I tried to explain this in my recent community post, that's why the sport is in such a state that it's in. That's why you've got guys like Jake Paul getting ranked and becoming the biggest draw in the sport right now. That's exactly why, It's crazy. Because people turn a blind eye. Like, people are actually out there predicting the Anthony Joshua fight and talking about what if Jake Paul lands a lucky punch, or what if Jake Paul employs this sort of tactic and is able to do this. It doesn't matter what tactic Jake Paul employs. If it's a real fight, it doesn't last 90 seconds. Okay, but nobody's saying that. What is Hatman or 78 Sports TV or Rummy's Corner or Motivator Media, are any of these people who are making videos about this fight, are any of them coming out and telling you if this fight lasts more than 90 seconds, it's fixed? Have a single one of them said that? No, but you're only going to hear that on my channel. You're not going to hear that from anybody in the mainstream boxing establishment, the mainstream boxing commentary community. None of these guys are going to tell you that. I'll tell you guys that, and I'll get called a conspiracy theorist for it, despite the fact it's basic logic. Whereas those guys, with their hundreds of millions of subscribers and hundreds of thousands of views, will sit there and lie to you and just cope constantly, stick their heads in the sand. They're going to do that and be rewarded for it. Now, why should I sit here and make boxing videos that will get like 300, 400 views when I'm the only guy in this entire community telling the truth? I'm the only person in the entire boxing establishment. Well, I'm the only person in the YouTube boxing community by far. And this has been this way ever since the start of my channel. I'm the only person who will come on here and tell you guys the unfiltered truth and point out the obvious about the sport and cover it honestly. No one else will do that because everybody else wants views, That's all it's about, I was the first person in this community to tell you guys that Canelo was a fraud and that his fights were all fixed. I was the one who broke that story. The reason why it's common knowledge now is because I said it 10 years ago. I was literally, while everybody else in the boxing community, even the more conspiratorial ones, were all saying that his fights with Triple G were going to be real, this, that, and the other, that he was going to, this guy was going to beat him, that guy was going to beat him because he's too small and his footwork's terrible, and he's got no stamina, blah, blah, blah. I was the one on here telling you, no, Canelo was going to win those fights because they're not going to be real. I was the one who broke that story, okay? And it's fine, I don't need credit for it. I'm just telling you how it is, I was 10 years ahead of everybody in this community. Either Matthew Hatton has a chin of iron or Canelo couldn't knock the skin off a rice pudding, yeah. I mean, Kell Brook was able to deck Matthew Hatton. Chris Van Heerden was able to beat up Matthew Hatton, like won every single round against him and everything. But I'm supposed to believe that guy can go 12 rounds with Canelo and give him a tough fight. But Canelo can walk through Sergey Kovalev and knock him out. But that's the thing, though, and I've talked about this at length before. That's exactly the issue with fixed fights. When the boxing media pushes it too far, or when the boxing establishment manufactures these situations, they start to defy the laws of physics, because you have a situation where Canelo can fight Gennady Golovkin, Sergey Kovalev, Callum Smith, all of these guys significantly bigger than him. these guys in their own right are some of the hardest punchers, pound for pound, in boxing. Some of the hardest punchers that have ever been in those divisions, right? Triple G probably hits harder. At least he's a more prolific puncher than any middleweight in history, right? He's got the most accurate punches in middleweight history by far, particularly with his jab. Probably the best punching technique I've ever seen in that division. And the same with Kovalev, right? These guys very rarely miss. They're sharpshooters, they're snipers, they're one-punch knockout artists, right? All of them. And they're significantly bigger. I'm supposed to believe that Canelo can fight these guys and walk through their punches and beat them up and things like that. And then I'm supposed to believe that Terence Crawford can move up from welterweight. Again, this guy that got dropped by Sergey Lipinets. Sorry, not Sergey Lipinets. A guy who got dropped by Aegis Kavalauskas at welterweight, who ran away from Victor Postal at light welterweight. I'm supposed to believe he can move all the way up to super middleweight and stand toe-to-toe with Canelo and beat his ass. By the way, I told you guys that was going to happen. Did I not? I was the only person, literally the only person in the YTBC before that fight got signed that told you exactly how it was going to go. I told you guys Crawford was going to dominate and school Canelo and win on points. Did I not? Again, I don't recall anybody else saying that. It went exactly how I said it was going to go, right? No one else did. I made a bit of money off it too, right? But I digress. What was I talking about? I'm supposed to believe, and again, these situations are so predictable. When you know the way that the status quo is going in boxing, you can predict these fights quite easily, right? These big consequential ones, right? I'm supposed to believe Canelo can walk through Golovkin and Sergey Kovalev and Callum Smith, but he can't beat Terence Crawford. I'm supposed to believe Terence Crawford can move up to 168, stand toe-to-toe with Canelo, take his punches, ride his punches, and outfight him. I'm supposed to believe that's possible. But again, people just ignore this. Boxing, when you get these industry plants in boxing, they literally defy the laws of physics. Canelo doing what he did to Sergey Kovalev defies the laws of physics. Crawford doing what he did to Canelo after that, again, defies the laws of physics. That would be like, I don't know, that like to give you an example, that would be like, say, Bob Foster or someone moving up to heavyweight and like knocking out Mike Tyson, just walking through him and beating his ass and knocking him out. And then like, say, I don't know, someone like Sonny Edwards moving up and beating Bob Foster. That's literally what that's like in terms of like, it's physically impossible. It defies the laws of physics. Okay, but it's happening with these industry plants in boxing. Okay, again, a guy that couldn't even take Aegis Kavalauskas or Victor Postal's power. He didn't have the genetic ability to take those guys' power. He wasn't strong enough. He wasn't durable enough. He can go up and fight Canelo, who was knocking out guys twice his size and like walking through them and that. And somehow he can just stand in the pocket and beat his ass. But try bringing this stuff up and you get called a conspiracy theorist. It's a waste of time and effort, you know. Joshua would just mess around, sticking his tongue out like the plebe he is, yeah. I give AJ a 99% chance of winning, and you're right, it's a quick finish, 99 times out of 100. If it's not a quick finish, it's a fix, like I said. That's the only logical explanation. It makes David Haye versus Audley Harrison look like a 55-45 fight. Yeah. But again, David Haye versus Audley Harrison was a fixed fight too. Everybody knows that fight was fixed. Audley didn't throw a punch. He threw one jab, and that was it. That was an obvious rigged outcome. And David Haye admitted he had money on himself in round 3. That was a predetermined outcome. Yeah. Matthew Barney had a chin. It's a Matthew thing, isn't it? Matthew Hatton, Matthew Barney. These guys are like hitting a brick wall, aren't they? Do you know he legitimately would? Danny Williams right now would knock out Jake Paul if they had just a full-on fight. He would, absolutely. Wilder versus Jake Paul. But again, Wilder's another example, isn't he, of an industry plant in the sport? That's what he is, you know. Wilder got wobbled by Charlie Zelenoff, so Jake Paul probably would have a chance. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jake Paul could probably beat Charlie Zelenoff. He's just too big for him, isn't he? So yeah, you know, you never know. Wilder versus Jake Paul, I'd have more of a chance of believing that could be legit. You know. Yeah, UFC has had fixed fights ever since its inception. If you guys want to see something interesting, right, look up the history of Pride FC. If you know what I'm talking about, there, Pride FC was one of the first like really big MMA organizations outside of the UFC, and that entire organization, I think about 90%, no, about 70% of the fights, and the people who used to compete in Pride FC, and the people who what am I saying? The people who promoted it and like worked as pundits for it, they have admitted in years gone by that about 70% of the fights in Pride were 100% fake. Like they were all works. Like there were so many guys who were built up, like because it was how combat sports in Japan generally works is they use culture and you know, sort of WWE tactics to build it in that part of the world. And to do that, you have to build certain stars. So you'll bring certain Westerners over and have them take a dive to like a Japanese guy or an Asian guy or something. And they have to lose a certain percentage of their fights. A certain percentage of them had to be knockouts. Certain percentage had to be submissions. Things like that. Like it couldn't be too predictable. And the same thing happened in Pancrase, right? But Baz Rutten was talking about that, how he was one of the few people in Pancrase, one of the few Westerners who refused to take a dive. You know, go and look that up. Like MMA, like the entire history of MMA, it was literally built on fixed fights. There was so many fixed fights in MMA. And boxing is exactly the same, but with MMA, it's been that way since its inception. And a lot of MMA fans know this. They know about works. That's what they call it, right? They call it a work. Apologies for that stupid microphone. Yeah, what was I saying? They know that the entire history of that sport is literally built on works, right? It's works that gave it its popularity in the Asian world, basically, right? And again, obviously, there's a lot of gambling involved, and whenever there's gambling, there's going to be works, you know. Again, it's like I said before, the way that they think when they're devising these sporting events is how do we make the maximum profit for the minimum risk? That's just basic economics, and sports and obviously are governed by economics, right? Because everybody involved wants to get paid, and they don't just want to get paid; they want to get as much out of it as possible for the lowest possible risk. That just goes without saying, you know. That'll be a money grab because the establishment. I can't stand boxing either. Yeah, me neither. It's horrible. It is. It's just such a drain on energy and time. Nordic sounds just as annoyed as I am. I don't think the sport has ever been in a worse state. All Turkey did was give the big names fat, undeserved paydays. Yeah, and as soon as that money stops coming in, and I talked about this at the time, as soon as the Saudi money dries up, all that's going to happen is these guys are going to continue to or they're going to want to continue to be paid the same amount of money, but they're not going to be able to justify it because the Saudi money isn't there to fall back on, you know. Chavez Jr. versus Jake Paul was one of the most embarrassing examples of a guy being paid to be a punching bag. Definitely owed the cartel something, yeah. Again, maximum possible profit for lowest possible risk. What do you expect? That's just how it is. Just to clarify, I'm totally aware that the AJ Paul, no, not could be a fix. It is a fix. Either it's a 90-second knockout or it's a fix. Is that or the other? If it's real, it doesn't last 90 seconds. Oh yeah, well we'll put it this way, right? Kessler beat Carl Froch, right? While Kessler was in a pretty bad state in his career, past his prime, and with that became a three-time champion, right? And he also again, he was already a two-time champion prior to that, with well over 40 fights with a high knockout percentage. So how does Carl Froch go on to be in the Hall of Fame, but Kessler isn't? That literally doesn't make any sense, If Turkey's venture turns out a failure, get the Jamal Khashoggi treatment. Yeah, he might, He like I know we joke about that, but he legitimately might. That's actually quite scary to think about. Based Denmark. Yeah, they were pretty big. Like a lot of the people there were just so friendly. Like they were great ambassadors for their country. They came over, just bought some drinks, chilled out, sang some songs, and they were really nice. A teacher from my school was from Denmark. She was really nice and hot. Can imagine we all liked her. Yeah, I bet you did. I bet you liked her. It was totally because of her personality, though, wasn't it? Totally. Normie Todd's bragging on about remigration, biggest waste of money and a cope. It'll never happen. It's just not practical. It can't possibly happen. I saw a few seconds of highlights from a Devin Haney fight. It was just him running around, not throwing anything. Yeah, that's the highlights. And that's every single second of a Devin Haney fight is him running around and just slapping and barely doing anything. Or clinching or low blowing. That's it. Or complaining to the ref, You broke Thunderdome's heart when you said that about Brett Cooper. Is that when I said that Brett Cooper might be a tranny? Or that she looks like Ben Shapiro in a wig? Shapiro is worse than Rabbi Shmuley because Shmuley is clearly an over-the-top troll, but Shapiro is serious. Yeah, like, again, Rabbi Shmuley is clearly like a really, really good satirical troll. Ben Shapiro is literally like just the evil or like the worst kind of stereotype of Jews you could possibly imagine. That's what he like embodies every single like negative Jewish stereotype ever. And he does so completely unironically, The fans like Haney make me not want to watch boxing. They're convinced that he'll put on a masterclass despite him just running and throwing. Well, that's the thing. People have been conditioned for many, many generations now in boxing, long before Mayweather. Like I'd say from the days of Willie Pep, and later on the likes of Pernell Whitaker. Right, boxing fans have been conditioned to believe that just being black, being from America, and running around not punching and not fighting means you are the technician, that you're the technical guy, you're the guy who's the superior intellect in the ring, which doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make any sense, Yeah, black Americans think running away and holding while your corner shouts, there you go, hit that body, he don't like it to the body, and you throw that jab, Like that's literally what they think technical boxing is. Whereas if you're coming forward, slipping, sliding, making your opponent miss, countering, beating your opponent's ass, and then knocking them out, apparently that's not technical boxing. Like I had a guy try to say that James, when I made my James Toney video, there was a guy on there who was like totally coping. I pointed out how James Toney got so much credit for his 9th round TKO win over Iran Barkley. And I pointed out that years prior to that, Iran Barkley got destroyed, like got knocked out in the first round by Nigel Benn, who literally just walked forward and beat his ass, like easily. The fight wasn't even competitive. He dropped him 3 times and stopped him in the first round. And this guy was trying to say, he was trying to say, oh, well, that's because James Toney is a technician and Nigel Benn is a brawler. So James Toney's 9th round corner retirement was more impressive. And I'm like, wait. So you're telling me that outboxing a guy and just putting a little bit of a beating on him slowly, and then that guy quitting on his stool after round 9 with like no knockdowns or anything, that's somehow more impressive than just smashing a guy in the first round, just walking at a guy, bouncing him up and down off the canvas and stopping him in one round. Somehow that means that James Toney's better than Nigel Benn or that his performance was better. That's the brainwashing that people have been subjected to. They actually think not winning in more spectacular fashion is somehow better than winning in spectacular fashion. That somehow makes you a better fighter. Like what they're not bringing up is how is it that Nigel Benn, supposedly this one-dimensional brawler with no skill, how was he able to land punches in the first round on this amazing technical like genius Iran Barkley, who was such a great win for James Toney apparently? How was Nigel Benn, this useless brawler, able to just go in there and smack the guy about and take him out in one round? If he was that good a fighter, why wasn't James Toney able to do that? If James Toney was on that same level technically as Nigel Benn, he would have been able to at least match that performance and take the guy out in the first round. But he wasn't able to do it, was he? So what does that tell you about James Toney? It tells you he was a complete hype job by their very standard, you know? That's exactly what it tells you. The McNeely fight was fixed too. It was a betting scam. Again, there was somebody who bet like $1 million that it wouldn't last 90 seconds. And it didn't, because again, they built McNeely up, despite the fact the guy was literally like a bottom level journeyman in terms of his ability. Like McNeely got knocked out later in his career by a guy called Louis Minocco. Do you know who that guy is? Louis Minocco was he was an amateur bodybuilder who turned pro, and then in his second pro fight, he got brutally knocked out by Butterbean in the first round. Like that was one. Do you know that iconic knockout where Butterbean just charged at that guy and like floored him in the first seconds, and then like countered his jab and landed an overhand right and just sparked the guy out cold in the first round? That was Louis Minocco. That was that guy. That guy beat Peter McNeely. He actually beat up and knocked out Peter McNeely. So that tells you the level of fighter Peter McNeely was, you know. I mean, Butterbean himself beat Peter McNeely's ass and stopped him in the first round. So that's the level of fighter that he was. He wasn't that good at all. Yeah, they think running away and not fighting. Hold on a second. This thing is. Can you guys hear what I'm saying? Because the screen keeps freezing up. I don't know what's going on. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear what I'm saying. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, the bloody screen keeps spazzing out and doing weird things. I don't know what's going on here. Wait there. Hold on. You guys can hear me. Okay, that's fine then. I thought that the stream had cut out then. I guess not. I'll go back to where I was in the chat if I can find it. I've got a lot. You see, again, this is what pisses me off. I make one stream and I put boxing in the title, and I get like hundreds and hundreds of comments. That's literally all my audience gives a shit about, innit? Is boxing. It's bloody. I'm not gonna lie. It's depressing. It really is. It genuinely is depressing. All right, here I am. I had to scroll all the way up because I got so many bloody comments. A good mate of mine has been telling me about boxing for years. We call a soft fix. Yeah. I've been using the term soft fix for a number of years now. I've been using that term quite a lot. You know, nobody is fighting in the heavyweight division, and Fabio is champion. Yeah. Fabio got awarded the WBO title because Usyk vacated it. But that's the thing, though. A few people, and I know Triple B was talking about this recently. What do you call it? It could be a plan from Usyk to become a 3-time undisputed heavyweight champion and a 4-time undisputed champion. It could be a clever ploy from him, because let's be honest, Usyk would batter Fabio Wardley. That's an easy fight stylistically. So he's probably I wouldn't be surprised if Usyk just sets up a Fabio Wardley fight next and tries to become undisputed again. That wouldn't surprise me. Kind of shrewd, isn't it? You know. Yeah. That was funny. Hatman's rant on Klitschko Povetkin. He had a total schizo rant there, a full on mental breakdown. Yeah, well, I mean, Showbiz and Rummy's Corner never told the truth, and that's why they're in the industry, because they make these stupid, like, boring ass AI generated videos where they just tell everybody what they want to hear and cook for views. That's literally all they do. It's all they do. Yeah, Hatman said Jake Paul got no chance. Of course, he got no chance. But is he going to call the fight a fix? Doubt it. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've never watched Showbiz. So I've no idea. Um, how was that really dangerous job? Yeah, yeah. It was fine. It actually wasn't too bad. I had a couple of issues that night, but I dealt with it, so it was all right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The older videos on Hatman's channel where he's doing his fake gangster accent. Yeah, he's like, "You get me, bruv." He does that. Yeah, he's like, "You know what I mean, innit?" Like that's how he talked in his early videos because he wanted everyone to think he was hard. But people took the piss out of him because he didn't sound hard. He just sounded like an idiot. And he was like, that's another thing. Like he used to go on camera, but he deleted all the videos where he was on camera because he was like a big, stupid looking fat guy, and people just like Hatman's like morbidly obese, by the way, for those of you who don't know, and like people just used to take the mick out of him because he was just like a big, stupid fat guy in his 40s who thought he was hard, and he stopped doing it. He stopped going on camera and stopped doing his like fake accent and all that. It was funny. Yeah, Sam Noakes will probably take a dive, probably. That man's bouncer training was showing those videos trying to act tough, yeah. Maybe he was tough at one point, like in his youth. I don't know. Um, I mean, he must have been if he was like a bouncer in London and all that. I used to subscribe to Hatman and fell out with him for some weird reason I never understood. I think I know the reason and left him to it. You actually fell out with him, yeah. Yeah, he's. I don't know how you can even stomach listening to him. Did you see Trump say he'll bomb Venezuela? And I didn't see that. Was that like an AI video though? Because that sounds to me like the kind of thing that would be like an AI video. That's what it sounds like to me. If you ever insinuate there's a rigged match on Boxing Reddit, all the Redditors will screech about how that's illegal. That's illegal. That's a crime. Yeah, because nobody's ever committed a crime, have they? Things that are illegal, they just don't happen. No, no, like people never commit crime. People never do things. People never run scams. People never do things that's shady and that's amoral. People never do that, do they? No fixed fights. They just don't happen because again, scams don't happen. Betting scams. It's not like every boxing movie ever was made about like the mob controlling the sport. It's not like numerous fighters have admitted to throwing fights for thousands of dollars. It's not like the FBI haven't been involved in undercover stings where they've offered to pay people to take dives and then they've taken their boxing license away for it. It's not like that hasn't happened numerous times throughout history. Probably Jake Paul. I think he'd make Zelenoff quit. Nah, Jake Paul would never fight me, and I'd never take a dive. He couldn't pay me 25 million to take a dive. I still wouldn't do it. I'd never do it. I'd knock him out easily. I would. Um, I remember when Kimbo Slice got knocked out by a pet smart employee. Yeah. Do you remember? Wasn't it a cop? Do you remember that cop who beat up Kimbo Slice in a street fight? And that cop ended up getting like a UFC license, but he got completely destroyed in UFC. The guy just couldn't fight. It was just because for whatever reason he managed to like outlast Kimbo Slice. Like Kimbo Slice like gassed and that guy beat him up. And then they literally gave that guy a UFC license and let him fight and he just got destroyed in the octagon. Remember hearing about that a while back. Yeah, Nordic versus Jake, I'd pay even for the press conference. To be honest, mate, the press conference wouldn't even be that entertaining because I wouldn't even say much. The fight, however, would be entertaining because I'd literally just go in there and go Mike Tyson on his ass, bob and weave, and just whack him with a few hooks, and he'd go into shock, and I'd knock him out. Topura versus Oliveira was 1,000% fixed. I don't think I saw that. Don't think I ever watched it. With boxing down low, even the money the Arabs might, yeah, they might get rid of it because they're not making a return on it, are they? You know, Charles Oliveira took power shots from Dustin Poirier, Gaethje, Islam, and he didn't crumble. Yet crumbled against 5'6" bantamweight Manlet. Topuria didn't make sense. Yeah. Well, again, look, you know, MMA has been like the entire history since the inception of the sport has been like mostly works. It has, and most MMA fans actually know that. Most of them accept it. And again, it's accepted fact that in Pancrase and the early UFC and Pride and all that, but most of them were just works. Like at least 70% people estimate were fixed. A lot of them were works. You know, a lot of fights were fought under special rules. Like, do you know when Butterbean started fighting in MMA and kickboxing? A lot of these guys, or in MMA, not so much in kickboxing, a lot of them weren't allowed to do ground takedowns because he couldn't fight on the ground because he was too fat. So they had to stand and strike with him, and that gave him a chance of winning. Those are soft fixes, basically. You know, I'm really close to betting big cash on Norman as my first ever boxing bet. I'm terrified it will be fixed. Yeah. Do you know the most money I ever made for a fight was on Taylor versus Catterall too. I made quite a lot of money on that. I made decent money on Canelo Crawford. I made a bit of money on. I made quite a bit of money on Taylor versus Esserman as well. Yeah, Josh Taylor losing made me quite a bit of money. Like, I made money every time he lost, and I made a bit of money on what fight was it? I forget. There was another one I made. I've completely forgot. There was another one I made decent money on as well. Like, yeah, I've not made a lot of money betting on boxing though. I lost quite a bit on Fury Usyk, as you guys know. That was a stupid bet, that one, but yeah, some of them I made decent. But I wouldn't recommend doing it regularly because you'll always end up in the long run losing more than you win. That's just how gambling works. Gambling is a total scam. It's a total work within itself, you know. I remember Thunderdome saying a lot of stuff that other channels weren't saying in 2016, like his rant on Adonis Stevenson. Yeah, that was pretty funny. It was. That was pretty funny. Yeah. Yeah, Canelo versus Terence Crawford fight was real in terms of let's see who's the lesser fraud. Yeah, and it was an easy fight to pick. I said from day one, and you guys that followed my live streams will know, I felt the fight was so obvious, the outcome, that I didn't even make a video because I felt it was that obvious. It wasn't worth a video. I said from day one, like before it was even signed, it's going to be a unanimous decision for Crawford. He's going to win nearly every round. Because it was just such an obvious pick as far as I was concerned with the way the boxing establishment had set things up. They wouldn't just send Crawford up to 168 to get knocked out, would they? That wasn't going to happen. It was obvious, you know. Have you seen that new Dispatch game? No, I've never heard of it. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Would you consider Canelo's best legitimate? I don't think he's ever had a legitimate win, unless maybe the Matthew Hatton fight. That might have been a real fight. I don't know, but I don't think he's ever had like a obvious legitimate win ever in his career. You know. I don't see the Jake fight happening. He'll pull out or something. It's almost too audacious for them to do such an obvious fake fight. They should know even normies won't buy it. Well, you might be surprised. You might be surprised. Never underestimate the ignorance of normies. Never underestimate them. The ignorance of normies can never be underestimated. Never underestimate the audacity of the boxing establishment either. Never underestimate that. Shuli got Candice to send a cease and desist letter because he used to promote his dodgy toys. Yeah, like Candice Owens has gone completely and utterly schizo. Like she has lost her mind. Like I know she's probably acting a lot of the time, but I do think she is. And I've always kind of seen something weird about her. I just think she's a little bit crazy. I think she's mentally ill. I do. I think she's schizophrenic. And what you'll notice, this is a common theme among schizophrenic people, is they fall out with everybody. Like they can't have a friendship with someone, and they can't get along with someone without starting a beef with them and accusing them of turning on them and things like that. Like, that's a common theme with schizos. And I think Candace Owen is one of them. I do. How's it going, Recognize? Yeah, how's it going, man? God bless you. Yeah, it's a long time no see. I didn't know you were still around, man. It's good to see you. Nordic, remember when Andre Ward was shooting for double legs, single takes, and knees against Kovalev? He turned it into an MMA match. Yeah, all of a sudden, it was an MMA fight. That's basically what that was. Like, Ward and his fans seemed to think it was an MMA fight. That's what they seem to think, you know. Mikhail Kessler won the first fight clearly. Crotch probably won the second. Yeah, for me, the second could have gone either way. I had no issue. I think I gave it to Froch at the time when I rewatched it. It could have gone either way. But I think what was I saying? I think neither one of them really belongs in the Hall of Fame. But then again, who cares about the Hall of Fame? Who cares about the Hall of Fame? Oh yeah, Scandinavian chicks are where it's at, innit? Why is an Asian man on your DP? Don't you have any white pride? Well, that was one of my old Muslim mates. Yeah. Oh well, cry about it if you want. I can. Yeah. Cheers, mate. Ben Shapiro reminds me of nails going across a blackboard. Do people take him seriously, mate? That is an insult to nails going across the blackboard to compare them to Ben Shapiro. It is, you know. I remember here in the States, always tried to downplay Nigel Benn's win over Barkley and Gerald McClellan. Yeah. Well, I mean, he destroyed Barkley. I don't know how you can downplay that because that happened years before Tony's win over Barkley, which people never shut up about. That happened years before it. And Nigel Benn just smacked the guy about in the first round and stopped him easily. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even competitive. It was a total mismatch. And again, Gerald McClellan, he was beating Ben's ass, but Ben came back and beat the crap out of him and made him a vegetable, you know. So I mean, look, it's a sad situation, but let's not pretend it wasn't an impressive comeback and a very good career win, you know. That's the market, Nordic. I always watch your political, philosophical, religious videos. I appreciate that, man. I wish that had been the focus of my channel early on. I regret making a boxing channel. I wish that when I first came to YouTube, before the adpocalypse and all that, I wish I'd made more of a political channel and talked about becoming a born-again Christian, talked about atheism, talked about Islam and stuff like that. I wish I'd done all that stuff before ever talking about boxing. Like, the boxing community, I've met a lot of great people through the boxing community. Unfortunately, I've met a lot of dickheads as well. I've met a lot of time wasters and shit, and I feel like I've wasted a lot of time and effort and energy on making boxing content when boxing content is more or less just AI. It's just AI. Like, you don't even need to make videos. Oh yeah, shout out to Daz, by the way, for the contribution. £2 for a bottle of Iron Brew. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, shout out to Daz Pierce for the contribution there. I appreciate that. I salute you. Nope, let me get the camera up. Wait there. Hey, it's not working. I was trying to show you guys my bottle of Iron Brew, but for some reason when I turned the camera on, the bloody thing went completely dark. I don't know why. Probably just the internet connection. I've got a little glass here so I can pour it. But yeah, man, I appreciate you. Oh yeah, I'll definitely spend the £2 on Iron Brew. Don't worry about that. I definitely will. Let me get back up to where I was. But yeah, I appreciate that, man. Let me get back to where I was on the chat. Wow, I've got so many comments. I didn't realize I'd get this many comments. I honestly didn't. There was a local amateur tournament at my gym last week. My buddy had his first amateur fight. His opponent was good. Then he dislocated his shoulder in the first round. So my buddy won by default. Well, that's quite lucky then, isn't it? Hey, at the end of the day, a win's a win. A win's a win. If you got the win, that's all that matters, really, isn't it? So good. Lucky him. Yeah, Mayweather and his radical defense, which consists of, I'm not sure, a good dose of running away and beating up a shot. Ricky Hatton, who ran in face first, yeah. While the referee warned Ricky for every punch he threw on the inside and wouldn't let him work. Basically, that's the great defense, paying off the referee to protect you the whole fight, and then laying on the ropes, getting beaten up and outlanded, but the commentators and judges giving you the round anyway because of your great defense, despite you're actually getting hit, despite being outboxed and beaten up like that nonce, what's his name? Carlos Baldemir, he beat Mayweather. Like, go and watch that fight. Carlos Baldemir actually outboxed Mayweather and schooled him. And the commentators just flat out lied and said that Mayweather won when he didn't. You know, McNeely had been groomed to a 35-1 record. He later got sparked by Henry Akinwande. Yeah, Louis Minocco lost by strange DQ to an aging Buster Douglas. Yeah, he did. Yeah. Louis Minocco. Again, he was that bodybuilder guy who got like brutally knocked out in the first round by Butterbean, and he beat the crap out of what's his name? He beat the crap out of Peter McNeely, like stopped him pretty easily too. I noticed that Hatman got offended when one guy called him Fat Man. Yeah, that's why I think that's why Hatman stopped showing himself on camera because people talked about how fat he was because he was like a big morbidly obese fat guy. And you guys know I'm a fat guy myself. I don't care if people call me fat. I find it funny, but yeah, Hatman can't handle it. He can't handle the truth. He doesn't appreciate the honesty. You know. What's your thoughts on Noakes versus Mason? Really think Noakes stops Mason. If it's real, Dell's really high on Noakes. I think if it's real, I give Noakes a very, very good chance of winning, but I don't think it will be real. I don't think it will be real because is American boxing. I know the fight's in Saudi, but it's one of these undefeated, up and coming American plants. Like, is it going to be real? I doubt it. I think Noakes will probably take a dive. Just going to the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute. One sec. Iron Brews made me need another piss. What's happening, guys? What I'm gonna do, see, before I continue this stream, I'm gonna refresh the page because for whatever reason my stream keeps going blank. I don't know why. I'll see you guys in a minute. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll copy and paste the thing. So I'm gonna exit the studio, but I'll be back in a minute. Okay, apologies for that. Again, the screen kept going blank for whatever reason. I don't know why it kept doing that. So we'll get back to where I was in the chat. All right, so Trump already bombed Venezuelan ships and is considering bombing Venezuelan land targets. I think because they're normalizing relations with China. Well, I'm sure I'm sure that's the official story. There's probably a real reason for it, though, isn't there? Because again, how these geopolitical wars tend to go is they like to portray it as nation against nation. Really, it's about the governments and the elite going to war with their own people. So I'm assuming Trump has, and the Venezuelan communist government have probably got plans. If you want to get people to leave the stream, all you have to do is trash Islam. Yeah, trash Islam, and they'll all walk away because they're probably all undercover Muslims. But again, as you guys can see from my old school photos, I got Muslim friends, innit? Again, so you guys can't call me racist. It's like that classic old, I'm not black, I'm not racist, I have black friends. So yeah, you can't call me racist, innit? Shall I post another photo as my avatar? Shall I do that? I'll get another one. I'll find another one. Wait there. Why not, eh? Guys will like this one. I love this. This is one of my favorite photos. You guys like that? Should I make that my profile picture? Should I make that my profile picture? Should I? That's like amazing, isn't it? It's like Homer Simpson or something. I'll leave that up for a while, then I'll change it. Are the Muslims really religious? Some of them, most of them, no. But believe it or not, there's actually a lot of secular Muslims. Like they identify as Muslim just because they were raised Muslim and stuff like that, but they don't actually believe in the Quran or the Hadiths, a lot of them. And the ones that do are particularly radical. Particularly radical. Remember normies that think gay people would be viewed as heroes in Palestine. Yeah. When really they would get thrown off a rooftop, innit? That's what would actually happen. Yeah, I was in KFC in that photo. I look about 8 months pregnant or something. Where was I? Would you laugh at Jacob? But probably. I'd probably just laugh in his face. Like, and he tells me he's going to knock me out or whatever. I'd just laugh in his face. That's what would probably happen. Where was I? Trying to find where I was in the chat. Why is it always that 115, 113 scorecard when someone beats Canelo? Yeah, like Bivol literally won every single round of that fight. Like he outworked and outlanded him in every single round, and yet it was like the same score on every card. 115, 130. It was literally pre-written scorecards. I heard something about 30 million investment in Haney, but I think Norman's in it for the money. Imagine investing 30 million in Haney, as if Haney's ever going to like as if he's ever going to generate that. Like, it's insane. Nordic Watch with Dana White promoting Brazilian fighters and Dagestani fighters in the UFC. Is it due to them having a large fan base and taking lower wages? I actually really don't know. I really don't know. Maybe Dana White's got some sort of political understanding with Kadyrov or something. I don't know. Like, that's an interesting thing too. See Kadyrov, because that guy's a massive like combat sports fan. Like, he loves MMA and boxing. His son actually had a bunch of fixed fights in boxing, and it's hilarious. Like, they gave his opponents like these big massive gloves, but Kadyrov's son had like these like bag mitts on or something. It was so obviously fixed and manufactured. It was funny. But again, because he's the president and he's kind of like this Muslim dictator, he does whatever he wants, and gets away with it. It's crazy. If you hadn't done a boxing channel, I'd never watched your live stream, therefore never heard the truth about Jesus. Do you know what? You make an excellent point. God bless you. You make an excellent point. If it wasn't for this channel getting involved in the boxing community, chances are a lot of people who follow this channel probably wouldn't have ever heard the gospel, and they would have never understood the truth of biblical Christianity, they would have probably just saw it as they would have heard the usual denomination nonsense. They wouldn't have actually heard the gospel. So that does make a lot of sense when you think about it. It does. So I'm absolutely bearing that in mind, no doubt about it. Another Irn-Bru, we know the crack. Yeah. I mean, it literally is like crack, isn't it? It is like crack. That's what it is to me, Does Irn-Bru taste like orange Fanta? No, it doesn't taste anything like orange Fanta. It tastes very different to that. Orange Fanta's got its own like distinct taste. It's very different. It's not the same at all. Mayweather defense, longer reach than his opponents. His style evaporates if the opponent is taller with good skill. Yeah, that's why he didn't fight taller guys with good skill. Right? He fought De La Hoya, who was taller, but he didn't have a longer reach. And De La Hoya schooled him, beat his ass, won clearly. But the judges had to protect Mayweather and give him the fraudulent win. My star witness got called in and was asked if he approached them or if they approached him. As he was allowed to say no comment. He's not getting involved and he's pled the fifth. Hilarious, yeah. Well, that kind of derails the investigation, doesn't it? Yeah, get your favorite referee. That's what Floyd does, isn't it? Gets his favorite like corrupt American referee, and then that's his great defense. Have you scored actually beating who have you scored actually beating Mayweather? Well, Zab Judah clearly beat Mayweather. Clearly. Wasn't even close. De La Hoya absolutely dominated Mayweather. Carlos Baldemir outboxed him, beat him clearly. Hernandez beat him clearly. Dropped him, beat his ass. Obviously Castillo in the first fight absolutely dominated him. That fight wasn't even close. Pacquiao dominated him. That fight wasn't even close. Who else? Maidana in the first fight and in the second fight. The second fight was very close though, but the first fight he beat his ass. Maidana won clearly. Wasn't even competitive. But all of those guys beat Miguel Cotto beat him in my opinion. Close fight. I thought Cotto beat him. All of those guys that I just mentioned, in my opinion, decisively beat Mayweather. All of them won. Oh, you meant to say Del isn't high on Noakes. I'm not sure. I didn't hear his opinion on Noakes. I don't think. Know that you drink Irn-Bru all the time. Your piss will be the same colour. I hope not. That's actually scaring me now. It's actually scaring me now. I should probably cut down on it. Shall I post another photo? Would you guys like to see another fat ass photo? Like, again, I'm not scared of people seeing what a fat ass I am. I'll show you guys another fat photo. Let me find one. Where is it? I had it on here somewhere. I'll find it. I literally saw it like today. Where is it? Oh, I can't find it, man. Here it is. Here's a fat photo. I found one. You guys will like this. There we are. See that? Got Coca-Cola and everything. Yeah. That's me with moon face. At least I had a full head of hair there. I might have been a fat ass, but I still had a full head of hair. So it's not that bad, Oh yeah, it's freezing here, like freezing cold. Like see in Scotland right now, it's like it's absolutely like it's absolutely Baltic, and I love it. See, today I didn't even get up till like 3 o'clock because I fell asleep on the couch last night in the early hours of the morning, and then I didn't get up till like 3 o'clock because I was just like, I was so cold. I was like, and my missus came in and woke me up, and then she's like, "You want tea?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go on then." And I'm like holding the cup of tea in my like freezing hands, and it was so good. Such a nice little cozy morning, Evening, brother. Yeah, how's it going, your old Al? Good to see you, man. God bless. Jake Paul versus AJ announcement doesn't bother me. It'll be the first AJ fight my kids will have watched. Yeah, because your kids will be into it, innit? Because Jake Paul was down with the kids, innit? Know that you're our undercover Jake Paul. Yeah, I'm Jake Paul's biggest fan undercover, innit? It's true. You got me. I wouldn't convert to Islam. Can't get one wife, let alone 4. Yeah, or if you're the Prophet Muhammad, if you're Muhammad, you can have 9 wives and a whole bunch of sex slaves, and the men of Al Zut to ride you all night. I saw an animated recreation of Muhammad and the men of Al Zut. It was hilarious. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. Disturbing but funny, you know. You bring up the picture after you dragged out Johnny Fish. Do you know I've not been able to get that? Oh, you mean me covered in blood? Yeah, that's on my phone, that one. But I've not been able to get the CCTV footage. I want the CCTV footage from that encounter. I want to like sneak in and bring like a USB. It's illegal. I'm not allowed to do it, but I want to do it anyway. I want to like sneak into the control room of that bar and get the CCTV footage and like have it just so I can watch me kicking ass and all that. That'll be fun. Be difficult to get it though, you know. Nordic hiding the KFC bucket under his shirt. Yeah. Imagine that's not even my belly. It's like the KFC bucket. Most third world Muslim countries are secularists. There are no Muslim countries that allow Sharia law. They follow French laws. Oh, is that right? Interesting. I need to look into that. Wasn't aware of that. Oh yeah. Saudi and UAE they don't enforce it, but that's because they rely on tourism and oil exports and stuff like that. So they need to be a little bit less hostile towards non-Muslims. Basically, need to be a little less hostile. Trump says he has a problem with Venezuela because of drug smuggling and fentanyl. Yeah, that'll be ostensibly the reason, but there'll be another reason. There'll be another. Do you guys want another photo? I found the one I was looking for before, by the way. I ended up finding it. This isn't another fat ass photo. I've got plenty of those. This is like a non-fat ass photo. Here we are. Kind of like this one. This was definitely 2010. This one, Boxing Gym. Yeah, kind of like that one. That was a nice little photo. Where was I? Kadyrov getting in the ring after Beterbiev Beaver won was when I knew they would give it to Arthur. Well, I don't think that made a difference because there's been other fights that happened in Chechnya, like professional boxing matches. Like if you look at the Chagayev versus what would you call it? Chagayev versus Okendo. Chagayev nearly got robbed in that fight. Like Chagayev won that fight easily, like 9-3, 10-2. And judges had it a majority decision. He only just got the decision, and a close one too. So yeah, that was really a close one there. Despite the fact Kadyrov was right there and he came in the ring and everything, and he was supporting Chagayev. The two were personal friends. They sparred and all that. I just watched the Silent Hill movie, underrated movie. I wish they'd put more effort into movies now like they did with this one. Yeah, I actually don't mind that movie. Like, I'm a big Silent Hill fan, as you guys know. I love the games, particularly Silent Hill 2. I think that's a great horror game. The movie, the first one, like the second one was terrible. That was awful. But the first movie with Sean Bean and that woman from forgot her name. That woman, yeah. That movie was actually all right. The first one, I actually quite enjoyed that. Yeah, Sean Bean was in it. But the second one was awful, but the first one was pretty good. Like, I thought it was a decent adaptation for a video game movie, which is rare. I don't like the 1901 Irn-Bru. It's not very nice. I prefer the just regular Irn-Bru. Although it was better before they changed the recipe, you know. It certainly was. If you land flush on Floyd, his referee stops the fight. Yeah, his referee stops the fight and then moans at you for throwing a punch and claims it was illegal. That's just what the referee does if you land anything on him, you know. Greetings to all. Oscar De La Hoya 100% beat Mayweather. Yeah, how's it going, man? Maidana as well. It's shocking how fabs or fans follow the narrative that the media... Yeah, as long as the commentators say that someone wins, people just agree with it without even watching it or scoring it themselves. That's just what they do. It's how they do it, you know. UFC gains a lot of money from these Dagestanis. Each Dagestani has more than 1 million Instagram followers before even having a big fight. Yeah, that's true, actually. Again, look at guys like, what's his name, Khamzat and Khabib and all that. Those guys have got like massive social media followers, plus all the Muslims all over the world, like use them for apologetics. They say, you see, this is proof that Islam is true. Alhamdulillah. Just because Khabib wins a few fights, but then they'll completely ignore Tyson Fury and Usyk and guys like that winning fights when those guys are Christians. It's true. Convenient. Royd Gayweather is a boy in a man's body, still works around his silly thug friends, even though he's like 50 years old. Yeah, he is. He's like 50 years old. He acts like a little boy, but he's been protected and coddled by the establishment. So he's been allowed to be that way, basically, I thought you lived in England. No, I live in Scotland. I've lived in Scotland since 2016, and I'm from Scotland originally. I just moved away when I was young. I've told this story numerous times. How old were you when you started balding? For me, hairline recessions had already started before 20. It's brutal. I think I was about 27 or 8 when it started. So I was kind of lucky in that, because most of like the men in my family go bald really young, like all my uncles and all that. Like on my mum's side, a lot of them happens young, but it happened to me later in life. Why are there pages sticking up for white people, supposedly then insult minorities, bringing up the bad they do, but never their own? I don't know what you're on about. Is there any hope for the UK? Probably not. Did you see Fruity Fuentes say people shouldn't be reading the Bible? Yeah, but because again, that's typical Catholic Church idolatry. Don't read the Bible. Just listen to what the cult says. Follow the Holy Roman Empire. Don't follow the actual scriptures and the statutes of the God of the Bible. I mean, when was the last time you went to a Catholic church and had them tell you about the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ in like legitimate, like real historical terms? And when was the last time you heard a Catholic tell you that you should believe in the Lord Jesus, that you shall be saved? More to the point, where is the word Catholic in the Bible? Where does it say that? Where does it say in the Bible you should engage in like Catholic rituals? It doesn't. Nordic is the UK applying a tax on taxi drivers. They're also planning on applying an exit tax if a British citizen plans to leave the UK. I didn't know about that. I've not heard of that, if truth be told. Not heard about it at all. But that is interesting. So basically, if you want to leave the country, you got to pay a whole bunch of tax to kind of keep people or give people an incentive to stay. Is that what that is? I'm assuming that'll only apply to rich people who own big businesses and all that, because obviously they want them to stay here so they can keep paying tax and fuel the economy. Fuentes is more interested in Catboy. He's a fake Catholic, yeah. It's funny though, the more you listen to Fuentes, the more you realise that he's just a total troll, and he doesn't really have any solutions for anything. I mean, it's no surprise he hangs around with the likes of Destiny, these total like obvious nonsense, and then constantly like he'll be asked about like his taste in women and things like that, and then he'll say something like, "I like to swim in the shallow end," with that stupid grin on his face, constantly like implying that he's a pedo. He just does that all the time, and it goes beyond a joke. Or like the Groypers kind of do a whole bunch of coping, pretending that it's a joke when chances are it probably isn't. What's 78 Sports TV's excuse going to be if Haney gets knocked out? I've no idea. Probably white supremacy or something. Even though isn't Brian Norman a black guy? I'm pretty sure he is. Last I checked, Brian Norman was a black guy. So I don't know. Maybe that 78 Sports TV will jump on Brian Norman and say he's pound for pound and all that, and he's the greatest of all time. If he knocks out Devin Haney, which he should if the fight's real, but I guess we'll find out, won't we? Don't know if you answered already. Jake Paul is bigger than you, 5'10" with a 64 reach, 220 pounds with fancy trainers. Yeah, easily, because he can't fight. Again, I've sparred with numerous heavyweights. I've sparred with guys who are bigger and hit harder than Jake Paul, and I've been able to back them up and stuff. So that'd be easy fight, you know. You ever watched Peaky Blinders? Never watched it. Don't even know what it is. Is it true that Christ appointed Peter to start his church, like Catholics say? Well, he appointed Peter as well as the other apostles, right? The religious, you know, and they stood up to the religious leaders of the time. That's what they did, you know, and they were imprisoned for it, persecuted for it, and many of them were killed for it. But they were the early church fathers, you know. They established the earliest Christian church after the resurrection, you know. And yeah, Peter was one of the first that was appointed by Jesus to do so. It says so in the New Testament. Yeah, screw the sugar tax. Old bars drinks were the best thing going. Yeah, but they had to change it because of the sugar tax. Although what they could have done was just kept the recipe and charged more money. I'd have paid more money for it, because that way that would have just been like an incentive not to drink as much of it, just to be a little bit more cautious with it. You know, that would have suited me fine. Most Dagestani fighters are inbred. Khabib is married to his cousin, but it's weird. Like, again, that's another thing. See, if you bring that up, if you bring up Khabib marrying his cousin, and that being like a Dagestani tradition, which again comes from Islam, right? Again, Muslims like to keep it in the family, right? And Dagestanis take that to heart, right? You bring up Khabib marrying his cousin, and people get offended by it. People, oh, you're being racist or whatever to Dagestanis, and I'm not being racist. I'm just bringing up the fact that Khabib married his cousin. You know, you're telling me he didn't marry his cousin? Because if you did, you're lying. You know, I regret not betting money on Richardson Hitchens versus Campos. Easiest fight ever to predict. Yeah, that was a mismatch, absolute mismatch. You know, people still think Cambosos is a good fighter because he beat that bum Teofimo Lopez. They don't realize that guy's a bum. Tell you what, I watched a few Sugar Boy Malinga fights. 2-time champ, what a led. Yeah, he was a tough guy, Malinga. Underrated fighter too. He was a pretty good super middleweight in his prime. What did the Muslims think when their fighters get beaten? Yeah. When their fighters get beaten, like when Amir Khan gets like bounced up and down off the canvas, where was Allah then? And you notice that Christians don't do that. When a Christian like loses a sporting event, like let's say a Christian boxer loses, oh no, when a Christian fighter wins, we don't come out and say, see, this is the proof that Christianity is true because this guy who identifies as a Christian wins a world title. We didn't do that when Fury beat Klitschko, did we? Even though he gave praise to Jesus afterwards. No, it was just a fight. And then if the Christian loses, we don't say, oh, well, God willed it. We don't say that, do we? But Muslims, they cannot separate Islam from politics or sport, right? To them, anything that happens is proof of Islam, even when it isn't. Again, Khabib wins a bunch of fights, and they say that that's proof that Islam is true. Amir Khan gets like devastatingly knocked out, and oh well, Allah willed it, I guess, you know. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, exactly. Satan would tell you not to read the Bible and not to follow the statutes and the laws of the triune God of the Holy Bible, would he? You know. That's true about Catholics. I'm technically Catholic. Didn't think well, it's not Catholicism that's bad. It's just the people running the modern day Catholic Church. Okay, they don't, because again, you can be a Catholic and still be a born again believer in Christ. All you got to do is read the Bible and repent, right, and trust in Jesus. You can do that while being a Catholic. There's nothing inherently bad about being a Catholic. The problem is most Catholic churches don't even read the Bible and don't even preach the gospel. Like, you'll be surprised how many Catholics don't even seem to realize that the Bible is real history and that it's verified by archaeology. A lot of Catholics out there seem to think that the Bible is purely 100% metaphorical. Like, they actually believe this, which is shocking to me. Swear I saw a video of Destiny noshing Nick off on Twitter. Well, yeah, they were hanging out. Like, they hung out together multiple times, and they both made like paedophilic innuendo. Same with that guy, Hassan Piker. All of them lot are pedos. Okay, Hassan, Nick, and Destiny, they're all perverts. All of them. The Groypers won't care because they're just cultists. They'll just consume copium and say that they're joking. That's what they do, you know. Nick could literally do anything, and they say he was joking. Well, I'd probably be a cruiserweight, but I could cut down to light heavyweight. Like I could easily cut down to light heavyweight if I had an opportunity, but I don't, unfortunately. I could do it though. Fuentes fans are mostly Browns. Like all they do is call people Jews when you challenge them. Yeah, you'll see these automated responses to Nick Fuentes' criticism, and they'll say, "J Hands typed this" or something. Again, that's cult behavior, you know. At 5'8", 200 pounds is fat. It would be better if Nordic goes down to 180. Well, that depends on your body structure. You could be like very, very muscular and very strong at 5'8", 200 pounds. But it is probably better for competing if we get down to 180, yeah. But I'm not competing at the moment. So at the moment, I don't really care about weight. If I do get the opportunity to fight, then I'll start cutting weight. But we'll see. Makes sense why apostles such as Thomas spread Christianity and not a church like Catholicism, yeah. Well, again, Thomas had a lot to atone for because he didn't believe in the resurrection of Christ until he physically saw Jesus Christ and physically put his hand on him. And that was where Jesus made that famous quote where he said, "Because you see me, you have believed me, but blessed are those who have not seen and still believe." Which is hearkening to modern Christians, you know. Where was I? Connor exposed all the Dagestani in press conferences years ago, yeah, and he just spoke the truth. That there are a bunch of Muslims who inbreed with their cousins, you know. It's true. Khabib literally married his cousin. Was Pernell Whitaker De La Hoya fake? No, that was a real fight, but De La Hoya schooled him and won clearly. And was absolutely robbed. Thoughts on how Lennox versus Vitali went? Yeah, Vitali beat Lennox's ass, and Lennox basically like opened a cut above his eye, rubbed his head in the cut, like laced it, and even with the cut, Vitali still like beat Lennox's ass and won every round, and Lennox was completely gassed, and the ringside doctor basically had to stop the fight to ensure that Lennox got the win when he would have probably gotten knocked out in the next couple of rounds. So that was just a fix. Yeah, Usyk would school Lennox. Usyk Vitali would be a more difficult fight. I still favour Usyk, but I think he would school Lennox now. I've seen enough of Usyk now to know that he would handle Lennox. It wouldn't be easy because Lennox had a lot of size and power, but I still think Usyk would outbox him. Nordic, you think Loma Haney is a good comparison? Haney's bigger, Norman just has more power. Yeah, I think Loma versus Haney was fixed, so I don't think that's a comparison that's wise to even think about. Again, if Loma versus Haney was a real fight, Haney gets stopped. It would have been in the same situation that Nicholas Walters was in, basically, except even worse because at least Walters can punch. Yeah, the new Pope is an idiot. All the popes in recent history have been idiots. All of them. Vitali was beating Lewis. Yeah, Vitali dominated that fight. He just got his eye split open, and that can happen to anybody. And that was what gave the corrupt ringside doctor an opportunity to stop the fight. It shouldn't have been stopped though, because Vitali was winning even with the cut, and he would have knocked Lewis out. That's what would have definitely happened. Yeah, Hassan's dog should be taken to and rehomed, and Hassan should be publicly executed. The cruiserweights are all going to be like 6'1" with long ass reaches. Yeah, of course. Hey, that suits me just fine. I'll deal with that. Yeah, people will call you a Zionist and then call you a Nazi. Like, that makes sense. Yeah, how can you be a Zionist and a Nazi? It's like they'll call you a fascist and they'll call you a and a leftist and all that at the same, or they'll call you a fascist and a communist at the same time. Ah. What's your favorite Scooby Doo movie show? Mystery Inc. and a puppy named Scooby are very under. My favorite Scooby Doo movie is Zombie Island by far. I love that movie. The Cyber Chase is a close second. My favorite show, however, is probably the original, the actual 1969 one. I liked the reboot in the early 2000s as well, the What's New Scooby Doo, but I prefer the original. The original just was so funny, and like the dialogue was just like insane and hilarious, you know. But my favorite movie is the I like the four Mook animation ones, you know, the ones that came out direct to video in the late 90s. Um, and the first one, Zombie Island, I think that's the best one. I do. Did you see Mayweather speaking on behalf of Israel at that event? Bibi must have paid him well. And no, I didn't even know about that. I didn't know Mayweather had any ties to Israel. No idea about that. I suspect James Toney did, though. Look at his manager. He used to wear the Star of David on his shorts, for example. Vitali was thinking about his brothel business being exposed. That's why he lost. Yeah, he was a little bit distracted by that, wasn't he? To be fair, that was years before the brothel business. So, but I get the joke, you know. Khabib got kicked out of Russia and had his money taken by Putin. Now Khabib is doing bank scams. Yeah, is that what he's doing since his retirement? He did retire, didn't he? Am I not? Am I right in thinking that? I think I am. How about Fury versus Lennox? Fury would outbox him, but Lennox has a puncher's chance. It's that simple. Yeah, Lennox. If Fury made a bit mistake, like dropping his hands and showboating, Lennox would probably drop him and maybe even knock him out. But I think if Fury like performed the way he did against Klitschko, he'd completely school him and outbox him. Well, the punch initially, it was an overhand right that initially caused the cut, but it was made worse by him rubbing his head into the cut and then lacing it and like rubbing the inside of the glove. And then Vitali's corner man made it worse by shoving his thumb in there. And the ringside doctor stopped it. They didn't call the ringside doctor in to stop it. He just jumped in and stopped it because they knew Lennox was gassed and about to get knocked out. Do you think the establishment thought Haney could beat Garcia? Yeah, I think the establishment thought Haney was going to win because they thought Garcia was going to take a dive, but he didn't. Nordic, I liked your review of Hogwarts Legacy. You broke it down perfectly. Trash game. Yeah, it was boring. It was just your typical copy and paste, like AI generated Ubisoft open world slop. That's all it was. It was boring. I didn't like that game at all. I liked playing with the animals and stuff. That was about it. Like the story, the characters, and the combat and all that was just boring. It was. Hello all. Yeah, how's it going, Owen? I could watch this but I would like to see it heavyweight. It would be Makhmudov versus Zhang. Similar weaknesses, both lost to Cabello. Yeah, that would be whoever gasses first. Because one of them's going to gas. I probably favour Zhang actually, because I think his southpaw style, I think he's got the longer reach too. I think he would probably get to the target first and probably cause Makhmudov to freeze up and end up knocking him out. Although Makhmudov did prove a little bit improved against Dave Allen. Like Makhmudov did show he was quite intelligent at pacing himself. He kind of knew um his limitations, whereas in the past he didn't seem to know his limitations. He thought he could always get a first round KO. But I feel like against Zhang, he those limitations would be too much. I'd definitely favour Zhang, unless Zhang just gets old overnight and can't box anymore. Just going to the toilet. I'll be back in a minute. Well, I believe you. Okay. I'm giving sports one more chance. If kickboxing and Muay Thai ends up being fixed, I'm never watching sports again. Yeah. I don't know. I've not watched enough of kickboxing and Muay Thai to know if they have as many works as they do in MMA or boxing. I've no idea. So I couldn't give. Could you beat up Garcia? You mean Ryan Garcia? Probably not. Probably not. Vitali was pummeling Lewis, beating him to the punch, and was well on the way to brutally knocking him out. Lewis got lucky. Yeah, the establishment protected Lewis. That was what they did. That was what they did. Usyk wants to make 17 billion, he said. 17 billion? That's a bit specific, isn't it? I think he vacated to have Fury trilogy as the payday is big, maybe in April, like Fury suggested ages ago. Maybe Usyk will have Mickey Mouse fights now. Do you know, I don't blame him. Usyk's earned the right to fight who he wants, as far as I care. Like, what he's done in the sport, like, will probably never be, like, it'll never be replicated, ever. So I've got no issue with him having some Mickey Mouse fights. Nordic, we need a video on Winky Wright. Do you want me to do a video on Winky Wright? I will if you want. I actually quite like Winky Wright. Bit underrated. Like, the next retrospective, though, and I've got the footage for it, but I've not, like, finished it yet. And I know I was supposed to do this ages ago. It's going to be the Razor Ruddock video. I kind of just want to get that out the way because that's just kind of boring. Like, Razor Ruddock, I don't know why people even want me to talk about Razor Ruddock. That guy was just a journeyman. He never did anything. Like, he never did anything even worth mentioning in his career. But yeah, I'll do the video anyway, just for the sake of it, just because people asked, and then I'll move on to somebody else. Winky Wright, maybe one of them. You know, he might be. Have you watched the Fallout show? No. The actress in the show is built like a man, similar to Ellen Elliott Page. How is he? Never seen it. I'm no interest in any TV show nowadays. Nothing that came out after 2016. I hate everything Scooby-Doo became shit after 2020. I don't watch any of the modern Scooby-Doo stuff. Like, again, I like the old 90s Scooby-Doos and like the early 2000s or back in the 60s. Like, it was consistent for many years, but then obviously in the cultural Marxist era, it would have gotten bad, and I'm not interested in anything in regards to it now. Makhmudov showed a good performance against Allen, was countering Allen's wild swings, straight punches, uppercuts, and hooks. Good jabs or simple. Yeah, it was a good performance from a tactical and strategic point of view, and I thought he did a really, really good job at keeping himself level-headed and not allowing himself to gas out, and he got the points win. He did exactly what I would have suggested he do, and he did a great job, I thought. Again, he's not a great athlete, he's not a great fighter, but tactically he knew what he was doing that night, you know. Where's the Razor Ruddock? Yeah, as I said, that's coming soon. Vitali's eye may have been permanently messed up if it continued his career. Oh, no, it wouldn't have. That never happens in boxing. Fights, let me make this perfectly clear. Fights should never be stopped due to a cut. Having a cut doesn't ruin your career. That's complete BS. No fighter has ever had their career ended by a cut. Okay, if you get cut in a fight, as long as you're not, like, bleeding to death, it's fine. Like, just let the fight continue. It's complete bollocks, you know. I liked your video on autistic obsession. Very relatable. I was very vulnerable to propaganda growing up. I'm 18 now and doing all right. That I'm not a self-hating left-wing scumbag. Praise Jesus. Yeah, God bless you, man. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear it. Never forget that Jesus Christ is everything that matters. He's more important than your own ego. He's more important than your own ambitions. Okay, being a born again, repentant believer in Jesus will set your soul on the right path, and it will give you salvation. That's what you want, right? That's what's most important. Never lose sight of that. And I'm glad that you were able to become de-radicalized and deprogrammed. I'm glad to hear that. It's good news. I wish it happened to me sooner. I feel bad for Zhang. The establishment clearly hates him. I thought he beat Hrgovic and Parker. Well, I thought Hrgovic beat him personally. The Parker fight was a fair decision, but like it was very, very close. But I actually disagree. I thought Hrgovic beat him personally. Is Pernell Whitaker not impressive? No, Pernell Whitaker was a fraud, complete hype job. He was actually garbage, if truth be told. Like I don't rate Pernell Whitaker at all. I wouldn't mind Usyk against Caballero and Italma though. Caballero got body shots, and Italma's a fellow southpaw who is the only fighter that's faster than Usyk. I don't think Italma's faster than Usyk. I mean, he's pretty fast. I don't think he's faster than Usyk, and he hasn't done anything yet. He's just a prospect, so I've no interest in seeing him fight Usyk. I mean, if he wants to destroy his career and get brutally knocked out, then yeah, he can fight Usyk now. I don't see the point in it, though. I wouldn't advise him to do that. You'll soon be loving boxing again, Nordic. When Caballero fights next year, the Germany scene will be reignited again. Now, Germany, the Germany scene will never come back. Okay, German boxing is 100% dead, and it'll always be dead because Germans are self-hating, degenerate cocks, a lot of them, and they don't even root for their own people. So that's never going to happen. Never. Put that out of your mind entirely. And Caballero's a Turk anyway. He's not even German. The Black Velma Scooby-Doo show was bad. Actually, the worst thing I've ever seen. I've never seen it. I know exactly what it is. I saw reviews of it, but it was like reskinned as a Scooby-Doo show because it was about something else. But they realized nobody would watch it if they didn't give it a popular IP. So that was basically what happened there. Yeah, the Razor Ruddock video is coming soon. That won't be a particularly long one. And maybe the, if I can be asked, maybe the Winky Wright one. It's just getting footage for videos now is impossible. You can't download YouTube videos. And even if I manage to capture the footage, I just immediately get copyright claimed. So it's just a load of rubbish. Was the Gabe Rosado Triple G stoppage good? Well, Gabe Rosado was getting his absolute head beaten in round after round, and he just wasn't fighting back. He was just a punching bag the whole fight. So, yeah, I do agree with that stoppage. That fight wasn't even remotely competitive. Again, let me make this clear. I think stoppages are fine as long as the fight is not competitive. If a guy's just getting his ass beat and he's not firing back, he's getting hit punch after punch, and he's just about to end up in A&E, then yeah, stop the fight. But if a guy's winning a fight or a fight's competitive and he's cut, don't stop the fight. That's stupid. Like it's ridiculous when that happens. Glad you're doing well in this live. Enjoyed your latest video. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. But again, the only reason it's getting views is because I'm talking about boxing. That's literally the only reason. I talk about anything else, it's not going to get views, you know. Yeah, Confessions of a Midnight Bouncer. I think I'd need to wait. I'd need to wait until I've done the job for like more than a couple of years before I start doing that. It would seem a bit premature because I think my most interesting shifts are yet to come. If truth be told, I'm planning to do this job for at least a couple of years, you know. So far, nothing that interesting has happened, you know. Except for my rumble with Big John Fisher and his boys, you know. Aside from that, which I really want the footage of. Yeah, Caballero's a Turk. He ain't German. He just lives in Germany. Joe Calzaghe punches look like slaps. I don't rate him due to crappy punch form. His punches shouldn't score. They're worse than Fury's slappy jabs. You know, you could argue that. And that was a point of contention at the time during Calzaghe's career. A lot of people suggested he should have had points deducted, or he should have been disqualified for the way he punched. He got away with it though, so here's what it is. But yeah, that was a point of contention back then, you know. Oh, you were joking. What were you joking about? Which comment? Oh, the Midnight Bouncer. All right, okay, sorry. Chavez Senior, he would be a high-level journeyman, like a C-level fighter, I'd say, if he were around today. Like guys like Lomachenko would absolutely school him though, easily. I rate Mike Tyson in the bottom half of the top 10, I would say. I rate him below the likes of Lennox Lewis or Klitschko or Usyk, you know, or Fury. Yeah, Janibek will battle Lara. That's a mismatch. Janibek wins that fight easily. He'd beat Prime Lara as well, in my opinion. And Lara's in his 40s now, you know. You get lied to at school about World War II. The real reason it happened is because of the Treaty of Versailles. Yeah, that was what kicked it off, innit? One of the false flags, among others. It caused an economic crash in Germany and radicalized the population. They elected Hitler. Yeah. It's a shame they never had Sven Ottke at the time, because they wouldn't have lost the war if he was with them. He's the hardest man in Germany. Hatman said if Lennox Vitali had a rematch, Leonard would. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. How could he possibly know that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I would favour Big John Fisher over Boogie, because Boogie is just way fatter and way slower and has got way less stamina. So yeah, Big John Fisher by knockout. It'll be similar to the Wings fight. Wings versus Big John Fisher would be interesting. That'd be competitive. Maybe favour Big John Fisher slightly. If a person is trying to be a Christian, but they consistently sin, what's your advice? They can't stop smoking crack. Difficult for them to go to church. Well, if you're smoking crack, going to church isn't going to stop you being addicted to crack, is it? You need to deal with that before, go into rehab or something, go into cold turkey, get somebody to lock you in a room with no crack for like 5 days or something, and then you'll be fine. Just make sure you don't go back to it. And then you can start going to church after you've gone cold turkey and beat that horrible like chemical imbalance that you have. And then basically, whenever you start feeling the urge to go back to it or you're stressed, say a prayer, talk to Jesus. It works every single time without fail. That's how you avoid sin. Yeah, Caballel is as German as Femi is British, yeah. Femi Olabwa Femi Joshua, whatever his name is. Yeah, only if Femi takes a dive. That's the only chance. Showbiz the adult. Mate, who cares what Showbiz the adult says? Like, who gives a crap, honestly? I'm not even reading that out loud. It's too retarded. Oh, yeah, Parker likes the yayo, doesn't he? Rush to the yayo. Shout out to Triple B. They are people actually picking. No, Janibek's going to battle Lara. That's a complete mismatch. Complete mismatch. Won't even be competitive. I didn't even know they were fighting, but I'm hearing it for the first time. And yeah, Janibek, I'm 100% confident wins that fight. I kind of wish Lennox and Vitali had a full trilogy. Yeah, and Vitali would have brutally knocked him out in the second fight and the first fight if they didn't stop it, I think the fact that Haney could become a 3-division champion if he wins shows that world titles in 2025 have lost much of its meaning. Let's not forget Broner was a 4-division champion. Yeah, I agree with that actually, yeah. Because a lot of the time they just hand out world titles in cereal boxes, don't they? Or you could sign with Frank Warren and you get a WBO title, Britain and Germany, both Germanic languages, both Germanic blood, both white Christian, both should have been allies, not enemies. Yep. No more brother wars. It's exactly the same as Ukraine and Russia. It's brothers killing each other for nothing, I'm sure the Jays are behind it, though. I sparred a 6'4" heavyweight on steroids, and he threw one of those slapping hooks to the back of my head. It wobbled me. Mate, I've been there. I told him, dude, you hit me in the back of the head. Yeah, that's something a lot of big guys do when they're struggling to hit a smaller guy. Just lean on them and start wailing on the back of their head. I've been there, mate. I've been there. Yeah, stop smoking crack first, then go to church, Go to cold turkey or something. Been wondering this for a minute. How good would you say Frank was? Frank Bruno? Overrated. He could beat Delian White. Chisora Frank Bruno, that's like a 50-50 fight. I don't know who'd win that. But yeah, very overrated. He was a big, stiff bodybuilder, but he had good power. Bit of a glass chin though, and very little heart. He fought some cruiserweight opponents that were significantly bigger and heavier than Cooper or Fraser. Yeah, true. Because again, the dynamics of the division were different. The cruiserweight division guys in that division now are just as big, if not bigger, than a lot of the heavyweights of the 70s. So, yeah, that's definitely a good point. Yeah, well, no, I'm on Twitter, but I don't have it. I'm not in any communities. I don't even know there was any communities on Twitter. I didn't know. I just thought Twitter was Twitter, you know. Simple response to showbiz, quality over quantity. Yeah, because Usyk could fight 10 bums and then match like Muhammad Ali's record at heavyweight. But would it really mean anything? Or, you know, if you look at what he's done, beating world-class guys in their backyards, guys who are bigger than him, guys who hit harder and all that, I'd say that that's a lot more impressive than just beating a bunch of bums, you know? Yeah, I don't even know there was a boxing community there. Yeah, that's right. Warrington's fighting Lee Wood again. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Got a feeling that Warrington's going to win the rematch, you know. Got a feeling about that. Who knows? I might even go to that fight. We'll see. Yeah, I hope Norman wins, and I think he will if it's real. Loma outboxes him, wins pretty easily on points, in my opinion. Some rookie guy in my gym who outweighed me by 30 pounds wanted to body spar me, kept hitting me in the head. I had a headache after. Then he tried giving me advice on technique. Yeah, his technique is JK. It's not just body sparring. That's the Charlie Zelenoff tactic, isn't it? We're just gonna have a light spar. It's gonna be very, very friendly, no contact. Bam, bam, and just start swinging for them, trying to take their head off. JK, it's not just light sparring. Yeah, he does seem like a nice guy, Bruno, doesn't he? That's true. I'm sick of African Americans gatekeeping the GOAT list to only the chosen people. Fury KOs Ali badly. Yeah, he KOs him in the first round. Ali relied mostly on height and reach. Can't do that against Fury. Well, Fury is what? 6 inches taller? Yeah, he's about 6 inches taller than Ali and has a way longer reach. So, yeah, that's a mismatch. Like again, Ali needed to lean back out the way and avoid his opponent's punch. He didn't really have a jab. He just had kind of like a lead slap. He'd have got completely smashed, in my opinion. Yeah, would have been easy. Where was I? Usyk has been fighting world-class tough operators since he came to heavyweight, and every fighter that he's fought has brought the best out of themselves. Yeah, that's true. Again, Tyson Fury is an all-time great heavyweight, and Usyk beat him twice. Daniel Dubois, you know, everybody on here was telling me Dubois is the next big thing. You're just hating and you're just racist and that when I was saying he was no good. Usyk beat him twice easily, smashed him both times, and people are not giving him credit for it for some reason. You know, work that one out. Anthony Joshua was going to smash him in 5 rounds, and Usyk won easily. You know, it tells you everything, doesn't it? Did you see your favorite fighter Jack Catterall fight this past week? No, I was actually working that night, but I was like looking at my phone, and I was following Del Boy's live stream. I don't actually know who won that fight though. Who won that fight? I know he fought Echo Esserman. Who won it? I didn't actually see the result. Usyk is totally different level. Yeah, he is. He's a different level to someone like Ali, like leagues above him. Leagues above him. It's not even close. Puma Martinez is 34 with 18 fights at 130, 115. He is cooked. The IBF champ is 35. Easiest undisputed run either. Yeah, I guess. I don't get why people are dumbfounded. Can't comprehend the idea that someone could beat Ali or Tyson. Again, even though Ali and Tyson lost multiple times. I mean, Ali had like 5 losses. Tyson got knocked out several times. It's not like these guys were invincible. Yeah, I didn't see the fight. Did Catterall win? Because I didn't see it. Usyk and Fury would both be 50-0 if they fought in the 70s. Yeah, if you put Usyk in a time machine and have him fight in Ali's era, Usyk wins every fight probably by first round knockout. Like, that's how much he has advanced compared to the standard of heavyweights in that day and age, you know? Would be funny to see Ali try to lean on Fury and tire Fury. Yeah, Fury just throw him around the ring. He would. He could just pick him up and like choke slam him, like the Big Show. No, I didn't see the Conor Ben fight either. I didn't watch it. Ali had zero defense, relied on his timing, which disappeared over age. Fury pops him every time he leans and mauls him in the clinch. Ali can't fight on the inside at all like Usyk or wrestling. Yeah. Ali couldn't fight on the inside. Again, on the outside, he just dances around and throws slaps. That was fine for his era. If you were to fight someone of today's era, like these big heavyweights, they would be too fundamentally sound and too big, too athletic. They'd take him out. First round. What do you think happened to make Tyson Fury stop taking tough fights without getting £100 million? I've no idea. I've absolutely no idea, truth be told. It could be that he, every time he felt like sinning, he just said a prayer. And Jesus gave him the strength of will to say no to his vices. It could be. And that meant more to him than his career. Maybe like because again, Fury is a Christian, or at least ostensibly he is. And it could just be that he didn't want to risk like getting knocked out and becoming depressed, and then becoming depressed will send him right back to his vices. I mean, you look at what happened when he lost to Usyk, and then he ended up like stumbling out of a pub drunk when he supposedly doesn't drink anymore. That's what it seemed like to me. It could be that. It could be just him trying not to prioritize boxing over his health. GOAT list: 1 Usyk, 2 Fury, 3 Vitali. I could see that. 197 Ali. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, he could have regained the hunger, or he lost the hunger after regaining the title. Because again, it must have taken a lot out of him to train for that, to lose all that weight, and then to perform at that level. So he probably was a drain on him spiritually, Me and Del Boy agreed. Conor Ben showed improvements in the rematch and was using his jab more effective. Eubank was worse, but Ben was better also. Yeah, I've not seen it, so I can't really comment on it. I've heard that there was a weight cut and stuff like that. I don't know, man. I don't really care. I don't really care about Ben and Eubank. I think they're both bums. They're both Nepo babies. Carroll won by stoppage, did he? All right. Yeah. Sonny Liston. Well, both fights. It was the first fight was actually investigated by the FBI because Sonny Liston just quit on his stool for no reason. Took an obvious dive, Ben isn't this ATG brilliant fighter, but he was better. Yeah, well, there you are. If he's better, he's better. Good luck to him, but I'm not really interested in his career. Have you noticed boxing is pushing OnlyFans hard? Virgil Ortiz even started one. Yeah, do you remember Andy Ruiz when he fought Luis Ortiz? Andy Ruiz had an OnlyFans thing on his shorts. Could you imagine following Andy Ruiz on OnlyFans? What would he do? Just sit and eat? Like sit and watch him eat a buffet or something on OnlyFans? Like, is that what people pay for? Because I can't imagine why else you'd watch him. He'd be like one of these mukbangers, wouldn't he? Ali in the Vietnam War, perhaps controversial, but I'm not buying the narrative he was this monumental hero. He racially abused his... Well, yeah, he was racially abusive towards Fraser and Foreman and Tyrell Biggs and guys like that. And he was horrible to those guys. The Vietnam War thing, I don't really have an opinion on it one way or the other. I don't think there should have been a war in Vietnam. So I've got no issue with him not, avoiding the draft and all that. I don't think he's a hero for doing it. I don't think he did it as some sort of political statement. I just think he did it kind of out of cowardice. He didn't want to end up getting shot overseas, So which fair play to him. I've got no issue there, Yeah, I agree. Fury smashes AJ, even if they fight now. If it's a real fight, I think Fury could stop him. I do. I certainly would. He's leagues above him. Virgil Ortiz has an OnlyFans. I see OnlyFans advertised at every event. But again, why would you follow Virgil Ortiz on OnlyFans? Like, what would he what would he provide content wise that you couldn't get from just following his Instagram or something? If he even has one, I don't know. Do you know Dave Allen would probably be like a solid B-level fighter in that era? I wouldn't say he'd be a top contender. He'd be like I said, a solid B-level fighter. He'd probably win a title or something. The New York mayor Mandani wasn't able to bench press 135 for one rep. However, he's winning in life through political power and millions of dollars to be made. Well, he's a weakling then, and I mean, doesn't that disprove Islam? Doesn't that prove that Allah isn't the true God? Because if he was, Muslims would be like superpowered, right? That's what they tell us anyway. Or maybe Allah willed that he wouldn't be that he would just be a weakling. Maybe. What are you doing? Did I say something wrong? Okay. Chisora wore OnlyFans for the. Oh, did he now? So Chisora has an OnlyFans as well. Well, come to think of it, I hadn't thought about this. Are these guys just taking a paid sponsorship from OnlyFans, or are they promoting their own OnlyFans? Like, does Derek Chisora actually have an OnlyFans account, or was it just a sponsorship? Did OnlyFans just reach out to him for a sponsorship? It could have just been that. Because again, I'm talking about like guys like Virgil Ortiz and Andy Ruiz having OnlyFans, and I'm like, I can't really get my head around why they would have it. Maybe they don't have it, and maybe it's just a sponsorship. I don't know. As bad as Fury can behave sometimes with cursing and gaslighting, his Wilder trilogy was a popular and fun trilogy to watch. He also has good race, which he threw away. It's sad. Yeah, they were fun. I think the second fight was fun. Like seeing Wilder get his like face smashed in like that on Black History Month. That was fun. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed that. And then seeing the total coping afterwards from the LGBT like Black Power Ranger community. That was funny. I'm not gonna lie, it was. Vietnam was an unnecessary proxy war where thousands of people lost their lives. They eventually lose anyway. Big up the Vietnamese stood up to Americans, yeah. Again, it should never have happened. It's another fake war that was for reasons other than what was given to us, Why did Fury carry Ngannou? Just to make it more competitive. And, well, I mean, the boxing establishment made millions of dollars out of it. And they were able to sell a fight with Ngannou and AJ, which also made millions of dollars in Saudi. So there's a few incentives to do that. Plus, it helped to create a whole bunch of controversy going into the Usyk fight. A whole bunch of uncertainty about Fury, made the odds closer. People were betting every way. It just made it a more interesting fight for a lot of people, That was what it did. 136 for one rep. Yeah, that's terrible. Dude's a weakling. I could do that without even really like trying. I could probably do that with one hand. Every single boxing event is sponsored by OnlyFans. Yeah, OnlyFans must just be like paying out a lot of money for sponsors. It's kind of like the, Raid Shadow Legends on YouTube. They were paying like millions and millions for advertisements. And that's probably the same with OnlyFans, but what they're doing it through boxing, Have you noticed that gatekeepers have disappeared from the sport? I think it's because hype jobs can't beat them anymore. It's just bums to the title fight. Yeah, that's true. A lot of the hype jobs can't defeat the actual like competitive journeyman. The Glenn Johnson types, the guys who actually come to win. Like those guys are too dangerous. You need to just get like a bunch of Andrew Hartley types who will just go down immediately, or professional divers. Chisora on OnlyFans is reminding me of John Rawling asking Chisora if he would kiss Vitali. Well, no, he asked Vitali. Remember, he said to Vitali, like, Chisora kissed a previous opponent. Would you like him to kiss you? And Vitali looked at him as if to say, what kind of question is that? Why would you ask me that? It was such a stupid thing to say. I remember that. That was for those of you who don't know, that was the face-off on Box Nation before the Chisora Vitali fight in 2012. Ortiz started an actual OnlyFans account. I think it's free, so likely a paid sponsorship. Oh, okay then. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was if he actually had an account or if it was just he took a sponsor or both. I had no idea. Usyk hung out with Andrew Tate, which was disappointing. I didn't know that. Why was he hanging out with Andrew Tate? What was that all about? Was there a particular reason for that? People generally thought that Fury would come in the same shape as the Ngannou. Yeah. People thought Fury just wasn't going to train for the fight, and he was going to show up morbidly obese and dancing around like an idiot, not throwing real punches. They thought he was going to do that against Usyk, really, and that probably like caused a lot of people to bet Usyk on by knockout. Well, there we are. They lost their money. Thoughts on Fury versus that chubby McDermott guy? Yeah, McDermott won. McDermott won clear in the first fight. The second fight, Fury destroyed him, knocked him out. But the first fight, McDermott went in there and beat his ass, won clearly. Ngannou was there to reignite the Joshua Fury rivalry. He probably was, because as soon as Joshua knocked out Ngannou, what were people saying? AJ versus Fury! AJ versus Fury! They were all of a sudden like, take my money. Like, it's like that meme, take my money, right? They were going to throw their money at the establishment so they could see AJ versus Fury. Because that fight tricked people into thinking it's actually a competitive fight if it's real, you know? That's what happens. Yeah, the LDBC is a cult. I think that cult has like disappeared now. I don't even see those guys anywhere now. OnlyFans is utter degeneracy, like most boxing fans are. Yeah, that's true. I've never been on OnlyFans in my life though, and I never will. No interest. Had any more of that potato and bacon soup since your last stream? Last time you mentioned it, it reminded me of a similar soup my mum used to make. Full pack of bacon is the way to go. No, but I had bacon yesterday with chicken. I had chicken thighs wrapped in bacon. It was very nice. Today I had like this fish pie that was really nice. I had it before the stream though. Vitali was like, WTF. Yeah, Vitali, like that look he had on his face was like, why would you ask me that? It's such a stupid thing to ask. If you're creeped out by it, you know. Is that how they behave in the UK? He's probably thinking, you know. That was it. I remember crying with laughter when Vitali had that face. Yeah, same. It was hilarious. He looked so shocked, like with the open mouth look on his face, you know. Tyson Fury looked like he had the whole Mackey's menu before the Francis Ngannou fight, but apparently trained his ass off. I just think he thought he'd win in a few rounds. He carried him. He could have, even in that state, he could have knocked him out in the first round. He was timing him in seconds. But he was just basically like walking around and tippy-tapping and trying not to hurt the guy. He just carried him. And even the knockdown looked fake to me. Like he went down from a punch that barely touched him, you know? He hung out on Tate, or with Tate on a boat from last year, I believe. Do you know, I saw a photo of Andrew Tate on Twitter, and he was standing with these guys. They were dressed up like in like gay bondage gear. And then David Wood commented on it, and he said, "This reminds me of Muhammad." And I thought that was funny. Some of you know what I'm talking about there. Yeah, Vitali said, "I only kiss women." He said that. He did. Yeah, I lost some money on Usyk Fury, but I made it back like the following week with the Jack Catterall Josh Taylor rematch. I made the money back. I think you'd like the Twitter boxing community. Yeah, if you want, add me to it. If you want, I'll give it a look. I'll give it a try. Why not? Do you score fights based on volume? Well, no, I score fights based on punches landed. I don't really care about volume. It's all about punches landed, and that's it, you know. Whoever lands more punches wins. It's very simple. As long as he's adhering to the Queensberry rules, you know. They probably just met somewhere. I doubt they're friends, Usyk and Tate. Yeah, I doubt Usyk actually hangs out with him. He probably just met him at some event or some shit, you know. The LDBC still about with the likes of 78 Sports. Well, I wouldn't watch them. So 70, 80 pounds. I wouldn't know. I don't watch them. Always eating good stuff, Nordic. Don't come across as the type of guy to eat McDonald's. No, I've not eaten McDonald's in ages. I mean, I've had it before. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of it. Not a fan of it at all. Fury never looks in shape because he does keto to lose weight. Still eats fry ups on a cut, which is just wrong. Yeah. Fury doesn't stay in shape in between fights. He cuts weight for his fights, but then in between them he just blows up, which is not good on your body as you get older. Once you make it into your 30s, you don't want to be gaining a lot of weight in between fights, and then losing it in a short space of time. You can get away with that in your 20s. You can't get away with it in your 30s. In your 30s, you need to be more consistent. Keep your weight down if that's where you want to be, Don't be like yo-yoing. It doesn't work. Have you also realized you call out a black guy for taking steroids, they call you racist and jealous because blacks have BBC genetics? Yeah, they do that. Yeah, true. Absolutely. They've done that for years. But let's be honest, a lot of them do take steroids, don't they? Most professional athletes do. The Matrix is coming after me. The Matrix is sending its agents after me. Nordic, I realize that I have a deep hate for the so-called boxing fans, the majority at least. I hate them for being so tarded, yeah. I'm just at a stage in my life, I can't handle ignorance and stupidity. I just cut it out of my life as soon as I see it, and that's like 90% of the boxing community is just idiots. And they're all ignorant, I'm just not having it. I'm levels above them in terms of intellect. And that's verifiable, What are your thoughts on Gypsy Crusader? I think he's hilarious. Do you know? I don't think I've ever listened to him. People were talking about him on here before, but I've never listened to him, so I don't really know. He's got a nice name though. There are boxing fans, and then there are boxing consumers. Yeah, and the consumers are always trying to they always try to gaslight you into supporting boxing no matter what. No, if you're calling out the fixed fights, that means that you're hating on boxing, and MMA is going to win, as if that matters at all, as if that makes a difference. It's just willful ignorance, Tate's boxing on December 20th. Who's he fighting? I wonder. What about big shots versus small shots? 5 light jabs versus 1 pound. Well, it depends. It depends if they land, doesn't it? Like if you land 5 jabs on a guy's face and then he lands 1 shot, that's 5-1, isn't it? It's 5 punches landed, Not all punches are equal. 1 big shot is better than. Well, yeah, a tap isn't a punch, is it? It's got to be a punch. It's got to be turned over, and it's got to land with the knuckle part of the glove. You can't just touch the guy on the chin and have that count as a punch. No, that's not a punch. You've got to actually turn the punch over and have some sort of snap behind it for it to count as a punch. I eat good food. Sausage rolls and pork pies stop me from being vegan. I've not had a pork pie in ages. I can't remember the last time I had a pork pie. I love a stuffed cheese crust on my pizza with plenty of meat and peppers. Yeah, the more meat, the better. Do you know, I actually really like mushroom on a pizza. I think it goes nice with it. That'll be good. But yeah, more meat, the better, of course. Why you hating, man? Yeah, that's what they say, innit? Y'all just hating. Looking to make my pro boxing debut sometime soon here. Got 28 amateur fights, about 50-50 record, but fought some top amateurs. I'm 26. Hopefully I'm getting a card soon, God willing. Yeah, that's good. Hopefully you can do that. Good luck with it. Best to start while you're young. Just you're still young, still in your 20s. Get as many pro fights as you can and build up a record. Then you might get a title shot. You never know. I once met a Muslim who hated Muhammad. I don't know how you couldn't hate Muhammad, if truth be told. Guy was a weirdo nonce, Yep, good luck. Some people score on big eye-catching shots. I don't care about eye-catching shots. What does that even mean, eye-catching? People saw it, Or swing around because of the eye-catch. Well, again, whoever landed more punches, actual legal scoring punches, wins. It's not difficult to score a fight, Not on some soy thing, but vegetable pizzas are underrated. Yeah, I actually don't mind a veggie pizza, especially like them nice frozen ones you get. They're actually quite nice, as long as it's got like peppers on it and something spicy. A pork pie. You don't know what a pork pie is? How can you not know what a pork pie is? It's a pie full of pork. Wait, do they not have pork pies in America? Do they not? It's basically just look. It's like thick pastry with some like minced pork and some gelatine inside it. That's all it is. They're really fattening, by the way. Like they put a lot of weight on you. I used to eat them all the time. Obviously, that was part of the reason I got so fat because I was eating pork pies. It gets subjective with No, it gets subjective when you've got two guys landing a very similar amount of punches. That's the only time it gets subjective. I don't think there's ever any real subjectivity outside of that. Because again, what do you mean by a medium power shot? Now, if a punch lands and a guy gets badly hurt from it to the point where he's like stumbling around all over the place, then yeah, that's going to stick in the minds of the judges. And judges are going to be more inclined to give that guy the round. But very rarely is that going to happen without like a guy going down. And even if that happens and a guy takes a beating in the round prior to that, the guy who gave him a beating is still going to get the round if you're scoring it properly because he landed so many more punches. Pork is in a mini short crust pastry. It also includes pork gelatin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can eat them cold or you can heat them up. They're actually nice cold though. What do you do after a very emotionally draining day or incident? Usually play a video game. If I have a really emotionally draining day, I'll just sit and play my PS1 or something. And then it takes my mind off everything, Yeah, it is a British thing. So do they not have them in America? I didn't even realize they didn't have pork pies in America. I didn't even know that. Yeah. You're missing out, man. But again, they make you very fat. That's the thing. I need to try pork pie. Might even have it for Thanksgiving, tied a turkey. I would choose turkey over pork pie. I like a good turkey dinner. I like them. Never heard of a pork pie. No. Thank you. Reminds me of that fish head pie stuff they have over here. I don't know. I've never had that. That sounds nice though. I would try it. Appreciate it. I found your channel a few months ago, though your boxing videos and your recent vids on politics, Christianity. Good to see boxing channel glorifying Christ. Yeah, appreciate it. Again, I'm just sick of boxing though. I'm sick of talking about it. As you can tell, I'm only talking about it here out of obligation. I don't want to talk about it. I've got no interest in it. I've not been watching it, but it's what people want to hear. So never let it be said that I don't give the people what they want. Never let that be said. It's not all about me, is it? One guy may land 10 punches. This is really trivial, man. It's boring. It's boring the life out of me. But I'll I'll humor you anyway. Okay, one guy may land 10 punches, but the opponent barely reacts. The opponent may land a good 1-2, which knocks him back. That's 10-2. What's your point exactly? Look, if the guy landed 10 punches, and the other guy only landed 2. He wins the round. I don't care if that 1-2 snapped his head back and did a bit more damage. I don't care. It's 10 punches to 2. If all of them punches are scoring punches, then he wins the round, obviously. It's not rocket science, dude. It's really not. I don't understand why some Christians think that the Old Testament is irrelevant, as if the 10 Commandments don't still stand. Yeah. Well, I mean, the 10 Commandments are listed in the New Testament, but they are derived from Old Testament law. Okay, like for example, blasphemy was punishable by death in the Old Testament, and in the 10 Commandments, one of them is "Thou shalt not blaspheme." You shouldn't take the Lord's name in vain. Now, the New Testament is very, very clear about the fact that the 10 Commandments are a simplified version of the statutes of the God of the Old Testament, because nobody, including the ancient Israelites, were able to keep to those statutes. But you can at least bear them in mind when you become a born-again believer in Christ, that you are to repent of your sins and turn from sin. It's pretty simple. But if Christians are ignoring the Old Testament, I feel like they're missing the whole point of the Bible, because you need to understand the prophecies of Jesus, like to truly understand what Jesus dying on the cross meant and the coming of the Messiah. You need to understand where it was prophesied from. So you need to read the Old Testament and the New Testament. You can't have one without the other, as far as I'm concerned, you know. Are you aware of the UK? I have no idea what that means. UK aesthetic. What does that mean? You mean like British aesthetic? Do you guys do no November? No, I know what that is, but no. Why are you doing it? Who would you say is the most underrated top pound for pound fighter in the last 15 years? In the last 15 years, let me think. Probably Alexander Povetkin. He's the one that comes to mind in the last 15 years. I love barbecue chicken tikka, mince with green peppers, onion on a pizza, with garlic base and cheese stuffed crust. Yeah, that sounds nice. I would enjoy that. Sounds good to me. The Algieri Provodnikov fight was a good example. Algieri landed so many more punches, but people thought Provodnikov got... Well, most of the punches Algieri landed were just like tippy taps that weren't even scoring shots. Now, he did land a lot of shots, true. But, I mean, Provodnikov also, like, smashed his face in and, like, landed, like, actual effective scoring shots that were far more effective, that had him running around the ring, you know. So that's an example there where it was a clear robbery. Provodnikov clearly won because his punches were actual legal scoring punches, you know. Yeah, Povetkin was a great fighter, in my opinion. Massively underrated. I'm craving jalapeno pizza. I was thinking making some today. Yeah, you should, man. That'd be nice. Chocolatito for me is very underrated. Now that he's basically gone from the sport, no one says a word about him. Yeah, Chocolatito. But to be fair, Chocolatito was officially listed as pound for pound number one. So it's hard to say that he was underrated, because he actually was certified as the top fighter in the sport at one point. But I agree with what you're saying. He should get more recognition than he gets. You know, he definitely should. To sum up, those incidents you encountered on the bus epitomise the UK, not from the UK, but the UK. If you get, yeah, I'm from Bradford, innit? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, how you doing, Del Boy? Good to see you. God bless you, man. Every time. How you doing? Got Roman Gonzalez, Povetkin, Kenshiro, Taylor. Yeah, all of them guys were underrated from a pound for pound perspective. No doubt about that. But again, Povetkin for me was just the one that came to mind, because again, if you look at what he had to deal with, like the kind of disadvantages he had in terms of size and physical ability, he was amazing at fighting taller guys and breaking them down and knocking them out, you know. Roman Gonzalez in the post 2010 is arguably the most aesthetic fighter to watch. Incredible skills and fun. Yeah. Roman Gonzalez, what was so good about him is how he could come forward all night, stand in the pocket, throw constant punches, and not just punches, but throw actual full-blooded, like full power shots with proper technique all night and barely get hit. Yeah, he would get in and out and do damage without you barely even touching him. And even when he did get hit, he was very good at riding with shots, absorbing them and like taking the sting off them and things like that. Like Roman Gonzalez technically was fantastic. Technically one of the best fighters I've ever seen. Like Chocolatito, it has to be said from a technical point of view, he did things that you just can't teach. You cannot teach them, you know. I've seen some people say that Erica Kirk during Charlie Kirk's memorial in the stadium appeared fit. Do you know, I'm sick of talking about that, but like, could you imagine what it must be like to be Erica Kirk? Like, your husband's just died. He had his like throat blown out in front of you, and you've got to raise the kids yourself, this, that, and the other. And everybody on the internet, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, is like constantly like reviewing every single interview you give or every single like time you appear on camera, and is like doing all this armchair psychology and analyzing every single one of your movements. You know, if she even smiles or something, they're like, there, see, she smiled. that means that she killed Charlie, or that means that that she's lying about the whole thing, or whatever. It's like, if she cries, people say that the tears are fake. If she says, she forgives the guy who did it, they're like, how could she forgive him? That's obviously fake. Like, they're literally analyzing and like psychologically profiling every single hand movement, every single gesture, every single facial expression, every single like voice crack and things like that. It's like everybody's like an expert on how a grieving widow is supposed to behave after the death of her husband. So suddenly everybody's an expert on that all of a sudden. Crazy. Could you imagine what that must be like? It's insane, man. No Nut November is extremely difficult. I've been thinking of using electricity shock whenever I fail. Do you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of that scene in, do you know the movie Dodgeball, where Ben Stiller is like sitting in front of a pizza, and every time he goes to take a bite, he like shocks himself. that reminds me of that, because he's like a recovering fat ass. That was funny. Favorite Scottish delicacy, bar Iron Brew? Well, I really do like a pie and beans. I guess that's kind of a Scottish delicacy. I really like haggis, neeps, and tatties as well. So yeah, they would be a close second. In terms of underrated, I'd put Adamek up there. Not the greatest, but very sound fighter. Yeah. And I've been saying for a while, like, one of the things about Adamek that was really impressive to me is how he was able to deal with taller guys and heavier guys. He was able to like keep these guys at long range or at mid range, and he was able to slip their shots and outbox them, kind of like Povetkin was. Like, he wasn't quite as strong or as powerful as Povetkin, but he had quite a similar style, and he was just great at dealing with bigger, heavier guys. Very, very underrated. And yeah, from a pound for pound point of view, that's definitely underrated. What happened to the two guys that made the WBSS tournaments? Which guys? Which guys are you on about? Antonio Tarver. And Antonio Tarver was very good. Like, I don't think he was a great fighter. I don't think he was an elite fighter, but he was very good. Like, slick southpaw, difficult to hit, very, very effective, like counter left hand over the top, powerful. Stayed in good shape well into his 40s and did pretty well. Good fighter. Fighters like Marciano, LaMotta, Duran, and others were good when they would ride with the opponent's shots. All of them spoke very well after retirement. LaMotta lived to 95 and Duran still going. Yeah, because that's the thing. LaMotta had a great chin, but he had the reputation for having a great chin. But he very rarely got hit cleanly. Like you say, he was very good at riding with shots and making them miss. That was one of Triple G's secrets. He was very good at that. So even though he'd get hit, the punches aren't like snapping his head back constantly, Yeah, he does. Like, Duran seems like pretty sharp these days, despite his age, and that's for the same reason. Would you rather watch Shakur Stevenson fights on a loop for 24 hours or watch Ben Shapiro for 24 hours? If I could watch Ben Shapiro, give me a pair of earplugs and I'll deal with it. If not, I'll go with Shakur Stevenson, because at least that'll put me asleep, So that'll be all right. The only problem with people nowadays is that they think they're intellectual geniuses on others when they haven't been in their shoes. Yeah, exactly. Look, you have not been in the situation that Erica Kirk is, where your husband has been shot right in front of you to death, and thousands of people on the internet are mocking you and saying that you're an actor and accusing you of being behind his murder and all that. But again, it's easy to sit back from behind a computer screen and psychoanalyze a person, but you're not in that situation, are you? Most of us will never be in a situation like that. Fuento, Shapiro, and Tucker Carlson are trying to take Kirk's audience. Candace too. Yeah, they're kind of like vultures, aren't they? Swooping in and trying to take ownership of that movement. Suddenly, everybody in that movement was all Charlie's best friend, and they know what he was really all about and his real legacy and stuff. As an Englishman, my favourite Scottish dish is mince and tatties. Yes, absolutely. I love mince and tatties. I have mince and tatties probably like once every couple of weeks or so. I love it. That is one of my favourite. I'm surprised I never thought of that, But you're absolutely right. I love her mince and tatties. That was my grandmother's favourite thing to make. She used to make it all the time. I know a pro that fought Abdullah Mason. He said he's pretty fast. I think Abdullah would literally annihilate our whole gym. Where is your gym? If you don't mind me asking, where is it? Dodgeball is a classic. Dude had the weirdest food addiction ever. Yeah, I like Dodgeball. That's a funny movie. But yeah, what you were saying about the electroshock therapy, that reminds me of that one scene. Like he's sitting there with the pizza, and every time he goes to eat it, he just shocks himself. I thought that was funny. He's like, "Come on, just one little bite, just one little bite." Interesting. Pie and beans. Never heard of that. Here in London, we're big on pie and mash. Comes with a nice green sauce as well. You might have seen Big John eat. Basically, a pie and beans is you get a Scotch pie, heat it up in the microwave, and then put baked beans on it. Pie and beans. That's simple. They used to sell them in pubs in Scotland all the time. It's a classic Scottish dish, and it's simple, but it's beautiful. From the 2000s, I found Vitali as one of the heavyweight division's best talents. All of his wins were dominant, and he may have had the greatest chin of heavyweight champion ever. Yeah, that's true. I agree. Yeah, a fried Mars bar. That's mostly just it's mostly just a tourist thing. Like people in Scotland don't really eat that. It's just when tourists come over, they try a fried Mars bar because they think that's what Scottish people eat. I actually don't know where that comes from. I don't think I know anybody who's ever actually eaten a fried Mars bar. Not anybody that isn't a tourist, anyway. Oh, you had DM'd me the Twitter boxing community. I'll look that up later and I'll join it. I wonder if Del Boy's a part of that. He might be, because again, I didn't even know that was a thing. But I'll check it out. Calla Sowland and Richard Schaefer, pair of cokeheads, isn't it? Yeah. When you're popular, everyone's your best pal. Everyone laughs at your jokes. Everyone wants to know you. But even people like Ben Shapiro, who talked trash about Charlie when he was alive, all of a sudden he was his best mate, and he knows everything Charlie wanted and wanted to do with his company. Pie and mash is nice when it's just regular gravy, not that green sauce. Yeah, the gravy's better. Gravy's better, absolutely. And add some mushy peas to it, I guess, and it's even better, you know. But yeah, Del Boy, are you part of this boxing community on Twitter that I hear of? People keep telling me in this live. Have you ever seen Steven Spielberg's first directed movie, Duel? I think it was a psychological thriller. Keeps you up. No, I've never watched it. I've never even heard of it. I thought his first ever movie was Jaws. I could be wrong about that. I've never seen it though. Did you hear about Kell Brooks' GF Ebony Bridges saying she saved him from demon possession? Not sure what to make it. No, I've not heard about that. No. She's a total sket though, and Kell Brooks a weirdo. He is like that guy's a degenerate in my opinion. Gravy with pie and mash is very northern. Anyone north of Watford is considered a northerner to us anyway. Yeah. If you're north of Watford, then you're a northerner, innit? Yeah. I guess I'd be considered a northerner when I was living in Nottingham then. I'm a northerner. I come from up north. You ain't so own bargains. Dodgeball was the best sport to play in school. I loved playing dodgeball in school. It was amazing. It was really fun. Like I would actually really look forward to PE if we were doing dodgeball, you know. I'm in a Twitter boxing community, but it's a bit niche. They're all shit posted, type of guys to make fun of Gareth A. Davis, Rick Reno. Yeah, that doesn't really sound like my scene. Sounds kind of boring, truth be told. Yeah, cricket was quite fun in school too, and football. My gym in the southern United States, I don't want to give away too much, but based on what I saw, I think Abdullah could fight everyone in the gym one after the other. Well, he is a pro, isn't he? So, like, if you don't have any pros there, he probably would beat them, you know. What do you imagine the heavyweight boxing scene would have been like in the 2000s, 2010s if the Klitschko's never boxed? Well, if the Klitschko's never boxed, it would have been like the Wild West, wouldn't it? Would have been just like a total free-for-all. Everybody beating everybody. It's just the Klitschko's were that much better. than the competition. They just dominated it. I guess guys like Povetkin would have been at the top. You know, guys like Povetkin and Chagayev, they would have had like they would have probably swapped wins over each other. So you know, the Povetkin, Chagayev, Valuev, Ibragimov, guys like that, they would have all beaten each other one after the other, probably. You know. So it still would have been an Eastern European scene, but the Klitschko's being around made it the Klitschko scene, you know. But that's why we call it, we don't even call it like the 2000s, 2010s. We call it the Klitschko era. That's literally what we call it, you know. That's basically what it is. No, Spielberg's first movie was Duel, a TV movie made into a theatrical movie in the early 70s, involves men being chased by a truck driver. The truck looked intimidating. I've not seen it, no. I'll be back in a second. I'm just going to the toilet. Ugh, that's my bladder emptied. What teas do you drink? Just breakfast tea, really. No. I also drink chamomile tea. I like chamomile tea as well. I've got some in the cupboard, actually. Is Kelbrook actually with Ebony Bridges? Is that true? Or I thought that was a joke. I thought people were joking about that. Like, I thought that was a meme. I didn't even realize that, you know. Rugby, you seem like a rugby lad, Nordic. Yeah, I did play rugby a little bit in PE. I was all right at rugby. Do you know, ironically enough, I was better at basketball, which is shocking to think about. I was actually better at basketball, which is really weird because you wouldn't imagine that at all. Chagayev, Povetkin, Hay, Ibragimov. Yeah, they would be like the top guys. I forgot about Hay. Yeah, they would be the top guys at that time without the Klitschko's for sure. You know, football attracted all the thuggish, know-it-all bullies, players who think they're world class when they're playing. Yeah. The bullies all played football, always in school. That was their thing. Speaking of football, Dell, I don't know if you were here earlier. I was talking about, do you know, the night of what do you call it? Scotland versus Denmark, the football game. I was working that night in a sports bar, and the sports bar was booked out by a whole bunch of Danish fans, and there were some of the nicest people I've ever met. Like see Danish football fans, like the Danish football firms that come over, like the friendliest like football firm you will ever meet. Some of the legit nicest people I've ever met in my life, and even though they lost, it was like a few of them actually said this to me. They said, "I know that we've lost the game, but we're glad it was you guys that beat us because we love you guys and all that." They were like congratulating me and everything. It was funny, and it got to the point where after closing time, there was still a bunch of them in there, and I was supposed to kick them out. And ordinarily, I'll like kick anybody out at closing time. I'll be like, if you're not out in 60 seconds, I'm throwing you out. But see, the Danes, they were too nice. They were too friendly to throw out. So I stood and I was standing there like talking to them for like 10, 15 minutes after closing time. And the bar are all like, we're meant to be shut. And I'm like, oh guys, yeah, sorry about this. Can you please head to the door? And they were like, oh yeah, sorry, my friend. Like they were so nice. Oh, it was funny. Like genuinely, because I was quite concerned at first because you know when there's like it was a big game. Like the Scottish fans were out in force. There was like, it was quite rowdy. And I'd heard that the Danes were staying in a hotel just up the road, and their like biggest firm were coming to that particular pub. So I'm like, I reckon there's going to be trouble tonight. There was no trouble at all. Like the Danes were actually coming up and they were like buying people drinks. They were like swapping their shirts for Scotland shirts and all that. Like it was hilarious. It was actually a really fun shift. Like genuinely some of the nicest people I've ever met. And I actually spoke boxing with quite a few of them, because I was basically talking to them about sports and all that. And I was kind of saying to them, I'm not really into football, but I'm a big boxing fan, or I used to be a big boxing fan. And I mentioned Mikkel Kessler. And I was a big fan of him. And they were like, oh, yes, Mikkel Kessler, he's very good. Like, they were pure happy that I knew who Mikkel Kessler was. I thought that was funny. And yeah, they're just sound people. It was a really, really good night. Football attracted all of the I already read that. What am I saying? Chagayev was a very underrated technician. Anticipating a retrospective review. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do a Chagayev one or somebody, because I think again Chagayev wasn't a great athlete, but he was technically massively underrated. Like one of the best like technicians I've ever seen in the heavyweight division, personally. Undersized as well. He definitely had some solid skills. Can't believe Lucas Brown beat him. Source or no source. Yeah, he was shot at that point. I think Chagayev was like half blind. He was suffering with hepatitis. He was like obese, barely trained. I think he was shot to pieces at that point, and he was still winning before the knockout, Valiev looked like a troll you would see in a fantasy movie. Yeah, he's like one of the trolls in Lord of the Rings, isn't he? That's kind of what he looked like. Big, scary looking guy, wasn't he? Yeah. David Haye would have been one of the title holders for longer without the Klitschko's in charge. No doubt about that. Lost my place in the chat. Where was I? Valiev, the Bond villain, to rival Arslanbek Makhmudov. Yeah. Valiev would be like the perfect guy to be in like a movie as like the Eastern European enforcer, wouldn't he? Just the big guy that the hero has to fight. He could like fulfill that role perfectly, couldn't he? Haye would have done all right, but get knocked out by Povetkin. Yeah, I agree. I fancy his chances against Ibragimov, Chagayev. Yeah, against Ibragimov and Chagayev, they would be very competitive fights. But I think Povetkin would be too athletic and too explosive down the line for Haye, and probably knock him out. Haye's lack of stamina would cost him against Povetkin, like it did against, or like it almost did against Fragomeni, and like it did against Carl Thompson, in my opinion. I think Povetkin break him down, knock him out. Brown really only had power and heart, not the toughest. Poor defense, slow and just quite limited, kind of like Makhmudov. Yeah, I see what you mean there. Makhmudov a much bigger puncher though. Wait, Brook and Bridges have a child? I didn't even know that. Yeah, that shows you how closely I've been following like boxing gossip, doesn't it? Because I didn't even know about that. Wow, I didn't know. Imagine Valiev was Ivan Drago in Rocky IV instead of Dolph Lundgren. To be fair, Dolph Lundgren looked the part though, because he was a big roided up bodybuilder. But I don't think that Valiev would have looked the part physically in terms of his body type. But he would look the part as just like an enforcer. Like just a big guy who can kick ass, In school, I was no good at sports aside from long distance running. Yeah. I wasn't terrible at sports. I wasn't great, but I wasn't terrible at them. Like I was quite physically strong and robust, but I wasn't like a great runner or anything like that. I was never like a full on athlete. Yeah, I know about the MMA guru. I saw that video that you're referring to, where you're saying that he called the Dagestanis inbreds. I've seen that video. That video was quite funny. Yeah, Floyd said he had vampire facials. He did. Yeah, salute to the Danes. Sounds like an easy night's work. It was an easy night's work. I had no trouble the whole night. And it's because the Danes were just solid. Even when they were drinking, they were just like really friendly and cool to be around. It was fun. I really enjoyed the shift. Scandinavians are typically nice people. The ethno-nationals I'm referring to. Yeah, true. The actual real Scandinavians. Yeah, that is true. I'll add this to Lucas Brown's career as well. His KO over Junior Fa was pretty scary. Do you know, I suspect that was fixed, personally. I think that was a fixed fight. I don't know why Junior Fa took a dive. I personally believe he did. I just don't believe, like, again, that guy went 12 rounds with Parker and was never hurt once, showed a great chin. He goes in there and gets blown away by like a 45-year-old Lucas Brown. I personally think that was fixed. Just my opinion, you know. At least the Danes have more manners. No, the English, yeah, they do. Yeah, absolutely. They're like that. They come over here and they're more well mannered than our own people. You have less trouble off them, you know. Yeah, Brian Nelson was Danish. Brian Nielsen, I mean, he was Danish. He was a heavyweight contender. He actually beat Larry Holmes for the was it the IBO title or something, I think. He lost to Tyson, but he beat Larry Holmes. I believe I heard you say, Nordic, many streams ago that you knew someone who said that Robin Reed took a dive against Froch. Yeah, that's true. He's a YouTuber called Fergal Allenby. Go look him up. He's an unlicensed heavyweight boxer, and he has a channel called Making Games. For whatever reason, he took all his videos down, but he has gangland connections. That guy, like he's connected with some really high ups, and particularly in Newcastle. And he was telling me, well, he made a video about it and everything. He was saying that Robin Reed took a dive against Froch. So basically, Robin Reed, some gangsters told him that there was money on Reed to lose in round 5. And Reed asked his corner, what round is it? And they said round 5. And then he quit on his stool after finding out what round it was. So, yeah, that was a fixed fight from what I've heard. For British fans, football, for some reason, gives them an exaggerated sense of self. 90% of the football fans I've met are idiots and clones of each other. Yeah, a lot of them are just pissheads, aren't they? It's the same up here in Scotland. A lot of them are like that. They're just alcoholic, rowdy pissheads who take it too serious, you know. Whereas the Danes, they seem to see it for what it is. It's just a sport and a place to, like, a way to just celebrate your nationality. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. David Tua or AJ. David Tua, if he could catch AJ early, he would knock him out. If not, AJ would outbox him and win on points. But David Tua, I give a very good chance at an early knockout. Just springs it on him like Ruiz did and take him out, you know. Maybe the stipulation for AJ versus Jake is AJ has to make 210. Even at that, if it's a real fight, it doesn't last 90 seconds. So if it lasts more than 90 seconds, it's a dive. I don't want to hear anybody say otherwise. It sums up how fake boxing has been for a long time. I think David Tua, Corey Sanders would have been nightmare opponents for AJ. I would favour Corey Sanders at his prime over AJ. I think he would just explode on him early and take him out, personally. David Tua has a chance of it, but he would have to get him out early. Otherwise, he wouldn't win, in my opinion, you know. He was kind of a one-trick pony, you know. Hay splattered Enzo when Enzo was on a roll, yeah, and Enzo was a favourite going into that fight, and Hay went in and took him out in style, which is quite surprising given how things were going in, you know. Yeah, that would have been a good fight. Like, Povetkin was past his prime by that point, but it still would have been an interesting challenge for Usyk at that stage, you know, just moving up to heavyweight, you know. I heard they banned Christianity in Northern Irish schools. Really? Because that's disgraceful. If they are, well, like, even if it's like a Catholic school or something, like, that doesn't even make sense. How can they do that? It's not surprising though, sadly. Can I ask a favour? In chance of a tea?
Okay.
I would get it myself, but you're sitting there already.
Where's your cup?
Over here. Thank you. Love you. Okay. Yeah. Dolph Lundgren actually was a competitive martial artist. Like, he competed in points karate. And I think he did do some like boxing exhibitions and all that. So he legit could fight, absolutely. Like, he would have been a decent amateur if he'd pursued a career, absolutely. Yeah, apparently Robin Reed took a dive against Calzaghe. Well, no, against Calzaghe, that went 12 rounds and it was a war. So, but are you on about Froch? Yeah, he took a dive against Froch. He didn't take a dive against Calzaghe. he like tried to put a beating on Calzaghe. That fight was competitive, you know. I wasn't an athletic or sporty kid, but I like dodgeball. Yeah, same. I love dodgeball. I loved it. It was fun. Yeah, how's it going, Apology? God bless you, man. Good to see you here. Povetkin versus Usyk would have been like Hitman versus Max Payne or two Stone Cold Killers fight. Yeah, two like total alpha male, like Chad Europeans just going at each other. That would have been some fight. It would have. Yeah, based Danes. Yeah, the Danes were based. They were actually really nice, a lot of them. Really, really nice guys. And they had a lot of respect. They were great ambassadors for their country. They came over here, showed a lot of respect, you know. Correct, Owen. London could, yeah, he could. Like, again, he competed in points karate and had a lot of fights, from what I hear, and was very good. And he had boxing exhibitions and that. Speaking to the earlier convo, in regards to two underrated fighters, Grigory Droz was very good. Sheamus' career got ruined by injuries. Yeah, could you imagine what would have happened if Tony Bellew had fought like Grigory Droz back then? Like if Droz never got injured, like he would have absolutely battered him. Like if that injury didn't happen, Bellew wouldn't have got anywhere near a title. He would have gotten smashed, you know. Brown had legitimate power in his right hand. Pretty much his only good shot. Sanchez took out far. Yeah, personally, I do think that was a fix, though. It just didn't make any sense to me. Because again, how was that guy able to go 12 rounds and take Parker's best shots? But he takes one shot from Brown and goes and he's out cold. Like, I just think that was fixed. I do. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. Thank you, brother. Love you. Would Grigory Droz have beaten Yeah, Droz would have battered Makabu. That's a mismatch. And again, Bellew wouldn't have even got a look in. He might have gotten a title shot with Droz. Personally, I don't think Bellew would have even taken that fight. He would have done the same thing he did with Marco Huck. Remember, Bellew became mandatory to fight Marco Huck after the Cleverly rematch, and he just took a dive. It was crazy. I mean, he took a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a dive. He took a fall. He allowed himself to drop in the rankings, the WBO rankings, and just gave it up. You know. I love dodgeball. Yeah, dodgeball's hilarious, isn't it? We were talking about that earlier. I'm thinking about putting a tenner on Jake. Seems too fishy for Jake to take this fight and just get knocked out in the first round. Again, you know, have they got odds on the fight not lasting 90 seconds? They might have, you know. That might be good to drop a tenner on. Hay was legit good, but the celeb status got to his head. Yeah, Hay was a great athlete. A lot of power, really, really fast, sharp, explosive, accurate, dangerous guy. But again, he didn't live the life. He was out there drinking and partying and going to nightclubs and all that, and it ruined his career. I think after the Klitschko fight, like, he made so much money from that fight, he was never going to be the same, you know. Enzo Macronelli just couldn't get to Johnny Nelson's level here. I reckon Enzo would have beaten Johnny Nelson, actually. I wish Droz didn't get injured just to see him flatten Bellew or watch Bellew run with his tail between his legs. Yeah, Bellew would have given up the mandatory position. He wouldn't have taken it, in my opinion, because he couldn't have beaten Droz. Plus, Ryabinski might have forced him to take the fight in Russia. You never know. You know, the Federal Reserve won't be creating any more pennies here in America, so that's it. Eventually, pennies will be a rare item. Is that right? Johnny Nelson versus Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali would win. Reed was a good fighter, but got too dirty too often. Yeah, he threw constant low blows, pulling people's heads down, you know, headlocks, slaps, you know, lacing his opponent. He was a very dirty fighter. Robin Reed was very, very dirty. Been watching clips from The Incredibles, and God, I miss films like that. Films made for children with moments for adults, like the insurance scene. No child would be able to understand. So funny. Yeah. See if you've ever worked in an office on a computer or a call center, and you know how, like, the way that bosses behave in those types of jobs, how they're always on a power trip. They're always these manlets, right, who are on a total power trip, and they lord that power over you. That scene is so relatable. Like, again, if you've ever been in like a corporate job and you've had a boss like that, and you've just felt so demeaned and patronized and undermined and belittled, that scene it's perfect. It's a perfect scene, and it's so relatable. And that movie is based, by the way. That's one of the most based movies ever made. It is. It'll be more one-sided than a gang rape. Yeah, that's David Hayes' best ever quote. It's going to be more one-sided than a gang rape. Brilliant. Well, who's the most boring fighter you've ever watched? Huey Fury's got to be up there. He's one of them. Johnny Nelson. Malik Scott. Might actually be Malik Scott. He was terrible. Can't even get through one of his fights, Robin Reed froze against Sugar Boy Miller. Yeah, he did. He got caught and he kind of froze up and ended up getting stopped. That was a bad performance, I was watching your Silent Hill reviews, Nordic. Oh, cheers. By any chance, have you played either Shadow Man or Nightmare Creatures on the PS1? They were great childhood horror games. I really liked. I've never played them, but I know what Nightmare Creatures was. That was a great game. I've seen like a lot of footage of that game. I've seen some reviews of it. That was one of them PS1 games that kind of went under the radar back in the day, but it kind of became famous on the internet years later. And I've been looking to buy that one at some point because I want to try it. Like, I've been really, really getting back into horror games lately. Like, I played Fatal Frame recently, also known as Project Zero. I don't know if you've ever played that. I reviewed that on the channel. And I also played Little Nightmares again. That was more of a modern horror. I'm going to play Rule of Rose. I've actually got... And it's interesting because Rule of Rose was a game that got banned in Europe. I was able to get a brand new sealed unopened copy of Rule of Rose. I've still not opened it. I've had it in my collection for a while, but I'm going to be reviewing that probably early next year when I play it. It's a PS2 game. Looking forward to that. But yeah, Nightmare Creatures, I definitely want to play that at some point. That's kind of like an over-the-top like action horror on the PS1, and it's quite funny and satirical and over-the-top as well. I want to check that out. New gym opening in my area in December. Hopefully it's good. Is that a new boxing gym? Yeah, hopefully you can go there then if you prefer that. Smashed from pillar to post. Yeah. Javonte Davis is a bum. Garbage. Parker tested positive for cocaine. What are the benefits of cocaine when it comes to fighting? Well, the only benefit to cocaine is it gives you a total rush. Like, it's kind of like extreme, kind of like taking caffeine. It just gives you a big boost of energy. You've got no inhibition. You're really, really like high on life, really energetic. But the problem with it is you come down very quickly. Like, if you've ever seen people who are high on cocaine, and then like they'll go from like jumping up and down, like banging their heads against the wall, like wanting to just thinking they can take on the world, to like 5 minutes later they're crying for their mum and stuff like that, and they've got no energy at all and they're all depressed. That's kind of the problem with cocaine. It will help you really early on in a fight. As the fight goes on, it will slow you down and probably wear off very quickly, Kind of like you'll get a sugar crash or something. New movie called No, I'm not going to watch that. I know what it is. I'm not going to watch it. I prefer the original. I bet loads of people are going to put money on... Yeah, probably. A lot of idiot gamblers, who don't realise how fake it is. Imagine if Paul goes in there absolutely juiced to the gills and does Joshua in like Ruiz. That'll only happen if the fight's fake. It'll only happen if it's fixed. I remember when the Wilder-Povetkin fight was made, and I thought... well, I guess Wilder Fury AJ fights are dead in the water. Yeah, because Povetkin would have absolutely like starched Wilder. He would have knocked him out easily. But they couldn't allow that to happen, could they? I wasn't a fan of The Incredibles when I was a child. I loved it as a child. I like it even more as an adult. Yeah, because see, that movie was directed by Brad Bird. And Brad Bird talked about how when he writes a script for an animated movie, he writes it for adults. And that's kind of the secret to his movie, is it's relatable to adults and children. And it's the kind of things that you can grow up with and still enjoy as you get older, Yeah, call centers are horrible, horrible experience. It's like living in a dystopia, Oh yeah, I deleted the New Vegas review because it was such crappy quality. Like, I went back and watched it. The audio was terrible. The edits were terrible. It was garbage, so I deleted it. I'm going to redo it probably next year. I'm also going to do a Fallout 3 review. Like, the footage is actually ready for that. I'm going to do a full Fallout 3 review in the earlier next year also. Well, at least with call centers, you can stand up and stretch your legs and stuff. You can't really do that with, you can't really do that with call center work. You've got to sit there like all day staring at a bloody screen and answering the phone. It's horrible. Bruno was dirty as well. Loved to rabbit punch. Yeah, he did rabbit punch a lot on clinch. Holyfield liked to use his head, although Bruno did have a good jab. Underrated. Yeah. Well, of course he is. Jake Paul has that bodybuilder physique. So, of course he's juiced. It's obvious. One of the best videos ever on YouTube. Which one is that you're on about? Oh, the call center video. I think I know what you're on about there. Little Nightmares had chefs that were very similar to Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, they were like Big John Fisher, weren't they? Make similar noises and look like Leatherface. See, I did a full walkthrough for Little Nightmares, like, and you know the bit where you get to the guests? That's like Johnny Fisher and his family after they order a Chinese. That's what they remind me of, you know? Old female manager chased me away from my most recent office job. Well, I'd say you had a lucky break, mate, being in an office. I'd recommend checking both Nightmare Creatures and Shadowman for retro reviews. Shadowman in particular, for me, was ahead of its time. Had problems, but it had atmosphere. Yeah, I'll definitely check those out at some point. I was already going to check out Nightmare Creatures, but I'll probably get Shadowman as well. Again, I've never played it, but I'd like to. It's definitely on my to-do list. Yeah, Costa Zoo would have been pretty good at 147. Like, he wouldn't have been as effective at 140, but he would have been effective. I love the Best Buy store scenes in the 40-year-old movie. Yeah. I never got into the Fallout games, yeah. See, I was never a massive Fallout fan. The only reason I started playing Fallout was because I was a big fan of the Elder Scrolls, and I was kind of looking to scratch that itch of, open world action adventure RPGs, but it got to the point I got sick and tired of open world games, and I'm not really into them anymore. So I've just replayed the Fallout games lately to kind of do my retrospectives on them. I wasn't really that interested in them. They're not quite as fun as I remember them being. I'm sorry, madam. I know you're upset. Remember that scene? He's like, pretend to be upset. That was funny. I reckon you'll like it, Del. It's the post-apocalyptic survival game that is DayZ. DayZ, yeah. Oh, GTA 6 delayed again. I don't care. I'm not playing GTA 6. I don't want to play GTA feminist, like blue-haired liberal protagonist beating up the patriarchy. Like, I'm not interested in that. I'll stick with the older GTAs. I'll stick with Vice City. Speaking of Vice City, one sec. Do an avatar change. One sec. Kind of look like Tommy Vercetti there, innit? A Tommy Vercetti shirt. I meant 40-year-old virgin. Oh, you mean the movie 40-year-old virgin? Yeah. Do you know, I saw that movie a long time ago. I don't remember it. I barely remember anything about it. When is your personal testimony redo coming out? Well, I've not been working on it because I've been too busy, but it will come out eventually. I'm assuming next year at some point that'll come out. Because I'm just kind of snowed under with work at the moment and with other projects and that. But it'll probably be around in the early part of next year, I think. Nobody here should bother with GTA 6. Just bound to get cooked. Yeah, I'm not even wasting my money on it. Red Dead 3, yeah, enough of that. Like SJWs in the Wild West, You're in it like Red Dead Redemption 2 was so stupid. Like you're in the game is set in what, like 1902 or something like that, and you're in the middle of like the frontier, and yet you're in a gang, and there's like feminist members of the gang, and they're like, I might be a woman, but I can shoot better than any man. And the guys in the gang are just like, wow, you are so strong and independent, and you don't need me to save you. And then there's like a Mexican guy, a black guy. You like walk into a bar and there's like an African wearing like a two-piece suit behind the bar serving whiskey and all that, and he's talking like, "Howdy, partner, how you doing?" Like, you can't tell me that that's not like immersion breaking. And then it's like one mission, you're like robbing a caravan, or like it sends you to a train, and you can like shoot innocent civilians and murder them, or like rob them at gunpoint. 5 minutes later, they're like, "Oh yeah, there's a wagon with a bunch of feminists who are going to a votes for women rally, and they need somebody to drive them." Because they're women, and ironically enough, they want the right to vote, and they don't need men and all that, but they can't drive the wagon themselves. They need a man to do it. Can you do it for them? Absolutely, no problem. I'll do that. I've got nothing better to do. So it's like you go from robbing a train and like holding people up, stealing their stuff, beating them into submission, having like a shootout with the law, to then and having to go on the run. Then 2 seconds later, oh, by the way, can you head up to that nearby town and help organize a feminist rally? Like, the writers for that game, was it written by like a 10-year-old on Reddit or something? It must have been. It was so ridiculous. Like, it had some of the dumbest writing I'd ever come across in my life. I watched the Eubank Jr. Ben rematch with a casual, and he insisted that Ngannou dropped AJ in their fight. Do you know, I remember I was at a boxing gym, and the people in there were talking about, oh, Ngannou's going to knock out AJ because he beat Fury, and it was totally real, and AJ lost. Like, they actually thought Ngannou was going to knock out AJ. Normies, man, normies. Oh, the Count Dankula call center video. I saw that video. I saw that ages ago. Yeah, that was funny. That was a funny video, and he's absolutely right. And again, if you've ever worked in a call center, you'll know exactly what he means. Yeah, Janibek's pretty good. He's the best middleweight right now, by far. No, I didn't see the trailer. Not interested in it. GTA 4, yeah, it had Nico Bellic. Like, where is Barbara with big titties? And Stephanie, who sucks like a vacuum. Do you know, GTA 4 had the weirdest story ever, because I really liked the opening of that story. Like, I really liked the first act, when you're on like the kind of the what do you call? I forgot the name of that island. The first island in Liberty City, and you're surrounded by like Russian gangsters and all that, and you start out as an errand boy, and you help like Roman with all his petty schemes, and then you end up shooting that Russian mobster, and they start coming after you. But then from that point on, the game story just got really stupid and ridiculous, and Nico goes like Nico never progresses at any point in the game. Like, the entire game, you're just an errand boy, and by the end of the game, you've like accomplished nothing. Like, and the last mission was so like anticlimactic as well. Like, whereas if you compare that to Vice City, like, again, Tommy starts off as like an errand boy for the mob, but he becomes like the Don of Vice City at the end of the game and ends up completely taking over. Like GTA 4 didn't have that. GTA 4, you start off as an errand boy, and you end as an errand boy, and you've accomplished nothing. I really didn't like the story of GTA 4, how it progressed. GTA 4 Kirk. Yeah, GTA 5 was a little bit better than GTA 4. Still had problems with it though. Yeah, Pitbull Grooves would probably win that on points, I think. I've seen 30-year-old virgin. Again, I don't remember it. It kind of made much of an impact on me. Yeah, one of the main characters on GTA 6 is a woman. That tells you everything you need to know. Tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? To you guys who have good people around you, cherish them. I can't stand the people in my current environment. Yeah. Well, if you can't stand them, walk away, innit? Walk away and find some better people. Find some better people to hang out with. That'll be better. Shall I change my avatar again for like the 10th time? There's another one. I'll stick that one there. Kind of like that. If you had the choice of deleting wokeism or Islam, well, they both go hand in hand. So, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. They both kind of need each other to exist, don't they? Red Dead 2 is overrated. Yeah, I hated that game. I didn't like it one bit. Didn't like it one bit. It was boring. It was worse than any Ubisoft game I've ever played, and that's saying something. I forced myself to enjoy Red Dead 2 when I was 15, spent £60 of my pocket money on it. Then Nordic uploaded his review. I was reminded how slow, unenjoyable it was. Not terrible, but underwhelming. Well, the controls were flat out awful. Absolutely awful. They were. It was very, very buggy in a lot of areas. There was too many cutscenes. There was too many slow walking sections. Again, the story was just ridiculous and didn't make any sense. And it was so predictable. Combat was very, very inconsistent in difficulty. Missions were so repetitive. I just thought it was a boring game. I did. Would you say, Nordic, that ever since the beginning of the 2000s, the most skilled heavyweight Chris Byrne? No, not even close. Not even close. Where are you getting that? Chris Byrne was a talented spoiler. He wasn't like the most skilled heavyweight. Not even close. Not even close. Funny, if you walk into a boxing gym, 95% of the guys don't watch boxing or barely know anything about the sport. Or even if they do, they're just all normies, you know? They're all normies, a lot of them, who don't know how to predict fights. It's funny how, like, people who box constantly, they're always in the gym, like, they can't predict a fight to save their life. Did you kill Roman or Kate? I killed Kate because Roman is funny. And plus, if you have Roman, you get free taxi rides around the city, so I don't think you really get anything out of Kate except, like, a crappy, like, virtual romance, and Kate was kind of ugly anyway. I thought the first girlfriend in that game, the Michelle, you know, the FIB agent, she was all right looking, but Kate was kind of a dog. So I got no problem with what's his face, Dmitry Raskolov, or what's the other guy's name, Pegarino. I've got no problem with them wiping out Kate. I'd rather Roman survive, you know. Because he says, "Do you want to go bowling? Nico's your cousin." Do you know what I thought was so funny? Like, speaking of GTA 4, I can't remember if I've mentioned this on here before, but you know how, like, when you unlock the ability to get the free taxis, the free cab rides with Roman, and that was the closest thing the game had to fast travel, right? I would do the thing where, do you know where you would phone Roman to get a taxi, and Nico would be like, "Hey, Roman, do you have a cab for your cousin?" And then, like, if he was available, he would say, like, "Yes, sure, you need work no longer," or something, and he would send you a cab. But what was so funny is, do you know, if he couldn't send you a cab, if he didn't have any in the area, he would say, like, "Sorry, Nico, but I don't have any to send." Like, as soon as I would hear, "Sorry," as soon as I hear that, I would just hang up on him. So it's like, I always used to find that funny, because it's like, could you imagine, like, you're calling someone for a favor, and as soon as you hear that they're not going to give you the favor, you don't want to hear their excuses. Just hang up. So it's, it's like, as soon as he goes, "Sorry," just hang up the phone. I used to do that. I used to find that so funny. Do you remember when Count Dankula got his girlfriend's dog to do a Nazi salute? Everyone tried to get him arrested. Yeah, he did get arrested. They didn't try. He actually did get arrested, and he lost his job. He was blacklisted from ever getting a job. Like, every time he applied for a job, he couldn't get it because they would find out that he got the dog to do a Nazi sign, and yeah, he ended up homeless and broke and all that. But then he ended up with a YouTube career off the back of it. So thank God for that, eh? Otherwise, he would have been literally, like, homeless and left to starve, you know? Wouldn't be able to feed his kids or nothing. Do you know what I thought was funny as well? Did you ever see that video where Count Dankula was holding the pug, and he says to the pug, like, he was, like, whispering into its ear, and he was like, "There's gonna be numerous mixed race dogs walking the street, and there's nothing you can do about it." And then the pug did a face like it was shocked, like it was like, "What?" Like, it did a face like it was absolutely terrified and shocked. Like, "What do you mean mixed race dogs?" Oh, that was funny. That was kind of a bit of, like, unintentional humor that occurred there, you know. I love Red Dead 2 to death, but the feminist anti-capitalist stuff in the game is dumb. But you know what's funny though? Like, again, it's funny when anti-capitalists make a game or make a movie or make a product and then put it on sale. You know? Let's make a product critiquing capitalism, and then charge $80 for it because we hate capitalism so much. We hate capitalism. Capitalism is bad. Buy our product and give us money, and don't forget to pay your taxes. Yeah, Little Jacob's funny. Yeah, he's the what do you call it? He's the Jamaican guy, and he was quite funny. Hey, Stefanico, you want to hang out, blood clot, like that guy. You barely understand what he's saying half the time, though. But he was a funny character. Rolly has a mandatory with Gassiev. Does he? Wait, Rolly has a mandatory with Gassiev. Am I reading that wrong? It is never over, yeah. A Serbian guy made a video detailing how the Serbian spoken in the game is horrible. Well, that's because initially Rockstar wanted that guy from. Do you know that movie with Owen Wilson, Behind Enemy Lines? Because the guy that Niko Bellic is based on is one of the villains from that movie, the guy who wears the tracksuit, and he's a Serbian guy. And Rockstar wanted that actor, the Serbian guy, to actually voice Niko Bellic, but he turned it down. And then they gave it to some American guy who didn't really know the language and the dialect and all that. So yeah, the Serbian speaking isn't accurate, obviously, you know. Why is Hatman so obsessed with Tyson Fury's name? I don't know. Tyson Fury. Or Luke Partridge, innit? Is that what he calls him now? I've not watched Hatman in years. I don't know. If wokeism goes, support for radical Islam go. Yeah. Without wokeism, the grass that hides the snake is gone. Islam wouldn't survive, you know. Salute, fellas. Yeah, how you going? Do you know why we never got Pacquiao Edwin Valero? Well, because Edwin Valero died. That's why. Because he went to prison and died, like right after they were negotiating that fight. So yeah, pretty obvious, you know. Like literally, like months after they were negotiating that fight, Edwin Valero died. To be fair, Chris Bird, well, he was defensively skilled, but that was mostly because he just ran all night. Like, Chris Bird was one of these guys, if he couldn't beat you, he would just run and spoil the rest of the fight, you know? You ever watch Of Mice and Men in school? Love that book and movie. We did, yeah, we actually did. We read the book and then we watched the movie in English class. I actually quite enjoyed it, yeah. I enjoyed the book and the movie, to be honest. Yeah, there is way too much horse riding in that game. You never get the damn money in Blackwater. Yeah, it's like you ride the horse like to your like every single mission in that game near enough is have a slow walk where you can't punch anybody, you can't blow anybody up, you can't shoot anybody, you can't say anything rude to anybody. You just got to follow Dutch or like I don't know Charles or whatever idiot you've got to follow while they talk bollocks and talk about how we going to get the money from Blackwater, and we going to do this and we got to do that, and then the bloody what's his name Arthur whatever is like, I'm not sure that's a good idea. I think if we do that, you could get everybody killed. Like they have that same conversation for like 50 hours, cutscene after cutscene, slow walk after slow walk. You walk over to the horse, jump on the horse, and then more often than not, the horse like spazzes out and crashes into something, and you fall off, and then you got to get back up and climb back on it. Then you run on the horse for about 25 minutes, while again you've got to listen to "I'm a strong, independent woman" and feminism and capitalism and shit and those peoples is racist. Like you've got to listen to that the whole journey. Then you get there and you get a cutscene, and it's some white guy, and he's like, "You better get out of here. I'm gonna shoot you." He's like, "You better not run. You stay where you are. I'm gonna shoot you." And then, but you can't shoot them because it's a cutscene. Then the cutscene ends, and you've got to wait. Your character will wait like 10 seconds for them to run like 20 feet away, and then the game allows you to run, and you've got to chase them. If you shoot them, they're invincible. They're immune to bullets, despite the fact Rockstar puts a prompt on the screen telling you to shoot them, right? And then it's scripted to the point where you've got to chase them for about 20 minutes. Then you get to a particular area and there's like 10 guys waiting for you and they start shooting you to death. And you got to hide behind a conveniently placed rock or wagon or something. and then you shoot them all dead, and then you get a cutscene where you execute the guy. And then you gotta say, why did you leave me here, Marker or Dutch or whoever? You could have got us killed. And like, well, we're alive, ain't we? And we go and get the money, and then we go to Blackwater, and then you get back on, like, you slow walk over to the horse. You can't do anything while you're slow walking. Then you got to ride all the way back to the camp, and God forbid you don't like fall off and like break your neck on the way, like because the horse's AI bugs out, or someone shoots you along the way. And then you got to do it all over again. That is like nearly every mission in that game. It's so scripted, it's so monotonous, it's so repetitive, it's so boring. The game sucks. And then when you get there, there's another like massive long cutscene where they have the same conversation you've been having since the start of the game. That's that whole game. So boring. And then it's like you go into the camp, and everybody in there's a dickhead. Like it's full of like race mixing. It's full of like anti-capitalist. It's full of thieves and braggarts and murderers and all that. And you just want to shoot them all and take their stuff and go off and do your thing and be a badass cowboy. But when you get to the camp, the game takes away your ability to draw weapons. It takes away your ability to run. And you can only interact by like slow walking over to these people and talking to them. And it's like the game is so restrictive. It's so boring. Can't stand it. I've got PTSD. The only good thing about that game was the based horse. That was it. My horse was based, and it stomped on people and all that. That was based horse was the best thing about it. But when they killed it, no, that was the one speck of gold in a shower of shit just died along with it, one speck of gold. Count Dankula says he's been going to church for a couple of months. God bless him. Yeah, that's a good thing. Do you know, I've still not played Bully, but I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it next year, and I'm going to review it. I'm looking forward to that. I've heard good things about it. Apparently, the production of GTA 6, they scrapped the storyline 3 times. That doesn't surprise me. Because I guess Sweet Baby Inc. kept interfering and saying, nope, that isn't woke enough. Nope, that isn't woke enough. You need to do this. BlackRock aren't going to give us money if you don't make it more woke. You need to do this, you need to do that. Yeah, he did. Bird did outpoint Tua, to be fair. And I passed his prime, but still game hold. Yeah, he did, but he wasn't one of the most skilled fighters out there. Like, outpointing Tua wasn't hard. I mean, Monty Barrett beat Tua. Oleg Maskayev beat Tua before he got like prematurely stopped. He dominated every round of that fight, so that doesn't impress me that much, He got schooled by Andrew Gallotta as well. Bird did. That was a robbery. Funny how woke people complain they're poor, yet they advocate for communism. Where they would be way more. Oh, thank you. Where they would be way more poor. I just got handed a frozen mini pizza. Excellent. Yeah. Bird couldn't really punch. Ryan and Rolly never fought at welterweight until they fought each other. That was somehow for a belt. Yeah, I don't understand that. That's just manufactured, isn't it? Yeah, but that was just a fluke. Again, Vitali won like every round against Bird, and then just quit because of a shoulder injury. Without the shoulder injury, he wins easily. Yeah, Manny would dominate Valero. Yeah, Valero took his wife's life, went to prison and hung himself. Yeah, he did. I made a video about it. I meant to say with the Bird question, obviously not the most skilled, but yeah, most skilled out of the Americans. He was one of the better ones, yeah, for sure. The Europeans were leagues above him, Imagine if GTA could let you drive through the Pride. Yeah. If you could drive through the Pride parades and have a car ramming of peace, that would be fun. That'd be fun. I'd enjoy that. That'd be based. Never seen Behind Enemy Lines, but that character looks exactly like Nico. Yeah, he does. Yeah, the tracker guy, he looks exactly like Nico. And that's who Nico was based on, and they wanted that actor to voice him. Bully is a great game. Yeah, I've never played it. I've got to go, but have a good one. God bless. Yeah, same with you, man. I'm going to be going soon anyway. Probably give this another 5-10 minutes before I call it a day. I've got a little pizza here anyway. And it's nice. Yeah, that's lovely. Enjoy that. Where did you get them? Iceland?
Frankfurt.
Oh, Fanford's. Oh, nice. Yeah, they're lovely. Could you see Kubrat Pulev being like a long reigning champion in the 2010s if the Klitschko's weren't around? No. I think he would be a decent title holder. But I don't think that he would be a champion, no. I mean, I don't think he would be like an undisputed long reigning champion, no, because he would have had to fight guys like Povetkin and Jagayev and all that. They would have been probably too much for him in their prime. You know that I know that. I mean, I told you that. I was talking about that in my last stream. Yeah, I was, and again, it was Triple B who told me that ages ago. But yeah, that's he's like the head of the sex industry in Ukraine. It's true. I was talking about it in quite a bit of detail in my last stream. Yeah, peace, man. God bless you. It's good to see you here. But yeah, no surprise that Vitaly was in support of Project Ukraine, eh? Got to stop them evil Russians. Them evil Russian Christians that want to take over the world, eh? Got to give more money to Ukraine to prevent that. But yeah, anyway, guys, I'm going to call this one because I'm getting quite tired. It's been fun. Thanks for stopping by. God bless each and every one of you, and stay vigilant. See you next time. Peace.